Hey guys, welcome to the show. So this is gonna be a stream, and it might be a little bit long. I'm gonna be watching a roundtable discussion, I guess. Just making sure everything is working okay. No one's said anything yet, but I am showing connected. I see one viewer. I am flattered. Thank you for joining me on this. But I'm gonna be reacting to a live stream. I'm going to display it for you all in just a moment. Which is a roundtable discussion posted on Tachyon Blue's channel. Tachyon Blue is working on a series of books, I guess, that are documenting the Gamergate controversy. And he is managing to get a bunch of pretty interesting and involved folks from this time. And now that the sweet baby thing has happened, it's basically like, only become more of a big deal. So they are doing a discussion, and in this talk, we have Tachyon Blue, but also Soyattle, WhickTV, ShortFatOtaku, also known as Dev, and Brianna Wu, which is like one of the literally who's of the time. And I have not heard this yet, but I'm going to I've listened to a little bit of it, and I can already tell this is going to need my attention. So I'm going to be digging into this in just a moment. So if you could, right off the bat, please subscribe. And I will do a little dance for you. I'm not currently talking to another person, so it won't be as much of an annoying factor as it was last time, and I apologize for that. I'm still sort of like getting the hang of this I would call it like intermediate streaming, like the basic stuff I got it down. I nailed it. But like some of the more advanced things, I'm still like learning what, the best moves are. I'm just trying to make things more fun, more engaging for you guys. But anyway, let's get into what we're going to be talking about. So, Troubled Cat says, Dev trusting Brianna is like the scorpion and the frog. Maybe. I haven't watched it yet. I think that Dev is generally a little bit, just not to be cruel, but I think he's generally naive about people's intentions. So, hey Jojo, go to your bed. Jojo, go to your bed. Jojo is here, but he, for some reason, doesn't want to be all that social. So I'm just going to put the camera on him so that you guys have a pretty doge to look at. He is a good-looking guy. And he's going to be chilling with me for a bit, so... Alright, and while we're watching this, I'll probably be streaming some Dark Souls in the background. Hopefully that's not too distracting, but I'm also going to grab this YouTube video. So let me put that on the screen there. And we're just going to move it up in front, like so. And I'm going to crop it down because I don't need it to be showing this much, and I also don't need it to be this large, but I want you to see who is in the chat and who is talking whenever they're speaking to each other. And I'll move it over here so it's out of the way. So is that good? Okay, let's give this a listen. So I'm about 11 minutes in, and at this stage they are explaining, they're about to define what Gamergate of 2014 was about. Brianna Wu is in the upper left corner, Dev is in the upper right, Tachyon Blue is at the bottom, and I'm sorry, I don't know who the other two guys are. I think the guy on the bottom left is Soyattle, and the other guy is WhickTV, but I could be wrong about that, so I apologize for not knowing who those gentlemen are. Okay, let's play some of this.
Let me start out with I have a choice, a bisexual, and so then Dev can decide which one it is. Maybe Tachyon will agree, maybe he won't. So Sweet Baby Inc. is either about lazy recycled pleases everyone content and Sweet Baby Incorporated trying to suppress research into their body of work? Or is it about feminism making all of our games boring and shutting down anti-feminist critics?
Can it be both?
Okay, well, if it's both, and I said this last time on Wick, if it's both, it's like putting lutefisk in my peanut butter. And I cannot ignore the flavor of anti-feminism in my game's journalism and my game's criticism. I'm sorry, I can't. So if it is about both, it's number 2.
So Soyattle, I think a lot of people, the way they look at it, and this isn't everybody, a lot of people have different critiques in this situation, but I think the way a lot of people look at it is, it seems like there is this clique of people that includes some games journalists, and some of the people working for the progressive consulting companies possibly, and some indie developers. And this group of people hold a social justice ideology, call it whatever you want. And unfortunately, they don't believe in living like in a pluralistic society, and they don't believe in a pluralistic games industry. A lot of them don't. And so, unfortunately, these same people, they have a lot of problems dealing with people who disagree with them. And so that's why they try to engage in like
Lower the volume of the game so it's not too loud.
They can't handle.
Yeah.
Sure, hold on. Before we get too deep in the weeds, I don't think we've had a good explanation of what the fuck happened, right? Like, and what the fuck is going on.
Fair, sorry.
So let's stick.
So
Soyattle gave his.
So these people.
Okay, I just want kind of like a
Um,
of the order of events here as you've seen them,
Oh.
Soyattle. We're going to stick with
Well,
you for the progressive
way
side,
back.
and then we'll go to. Oh,
They're not going to be able to separate the feminism from what's happening. This is like these are like
say-
Yeah,
inconsolable
repeat that?
differences, you know?
Call me Bree. So I don't think anyone's kind of explaining this Sweet Baby.
You can call me Bree.
The super Deb, please correct me if I'm wrong. But long story short, there was a group of people out there that were investigating. They noticed that a whole bunch of games that did not do very well were all consulted on by this company, Sweet Baby Inc. Sweet Baby Inc. Apologies. It contained some people, including what was their name again? Felix. What was their last name?
Felix Kramer. Yeah.
Felix Kramer, who was a major figure from the Gamergate era, and a whole bunch of people that seem to have, you know, the typical, what you would pejoratively call SJW, progressive values. And then a whole bunch of people started to basically investigate it. They're attributing some wide attributes to the work that they did on this game. Some people are saying it's why it failed. In some cases, like Saints Row Reboot, even I would agree with Dev that the politics in that game were so distracting with the story that it didn't make it a better product. But then too, you know, some games that were objectively extremely good, like Alan Wake 2. So it's basically, you've got these kind of self-appointed freelance journalists out there. They're digging in and they are concerned that basically this company is pushing games in political direction they find objectionable. Is that the gist of it?
That is more or less the gist of it.
yeah.
I mean, my view has always been that you can be a progressive and make a good game. There's many good games out there made by progressives. The issue is that when a progressive makes a bad game, they hide behind their progressives.
That's true.
People don't like us because we're progressives and you're...
That's true. Or you're a bigot.
It's like, well...
It's more like you're a bigot. Because I'm black and that means I'm a good developer.
Live services and microtransactions into Suicide Squad versus the Justice.
That wasn't the...
Progressivism, why? The
Oh, you motherfucker. You motherfucker.
Games Press. From...
Why aren't you criticizing capitalism enough? We have a choice!
Is why you had all of those cringy scenes of Harley Quinn girl bossing her way through the...
If people have to pay for this shit, they want something decent.
Just like all the rest of the Harley Quinn films.
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah, those suck too.
Well, then it's. I've got this video from.
What an asshole!
Who I think is a major figure in 2.0 or whatever.
Endymion is alright. So what? You don't like him?
November of 2022, he posted this video about ESG worming its way into video games. And that's environmental, social, and governance score.
It's worming its way into everything, bro.
Assessment made to show investors whether or not a stock or a security is something that could have unrealized risks in these categories. And so his claim is that, oh, this is just wokeifying games, and he's been doing this he's been talking about this for years. And I think even Tachyon was very generous and said, like, hey, looks like this has been brought up, you know, before Kiwi Farms. It was brought up on 4chan and 4chan, and
it's been brought up since Gamergate 1.
Boiling.
It's been brought up before that.
When Alan Wake 2 press and Sweet Baby Inc. was sort of identified by the press as a good thing in Alan Wake 2. And this is sort of the backlash to that good press, in my opinion.
I mean, maybe.
Well, the current. Do you want to go?
Yeah, you go ahead, Pack. No, go ahead. Go.
Okay. So the current. I do think it is important to note, though, that there were people talking about this on various online forums, including Kiwi Farms and 8chan and Reddit, and NeoGAF too, presumably others, prior to all this happening. And there were a couple of YouTubers who talked about Sweet Baby Inc. too prior to, like months ago, prior to this controversy. But the current controversy, the reason this all blew up was because of the Streisand effect.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Because of the harassment. That
Well,
people
okay.
received.
Hold on.
You want to call it harassment? Then we can talk about harassment on both sides. You're an expert.
Let's
here's
take it step by step, please. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh my god, my both sides.
The current iteration of the story, because if we're gonna go back to 2022 and ESG, it's a much wider topic, right?
This is kind of a milquetoast stream. That's why I'm responding to it, because the people are like, Dev is probably the most on point, and he's still like pretty weak on a lot of shit. So
Precursors, people talking.
he's still Canadian.
Like, you can follow basically a logic trail all the way back probably to Gamergate 1, which is why everyone talks about Gamergate when they're talking about this.
Yeah, obviously.
Of the conversation is about basically it's about Cabrutus. He made the Steam page. He said these are all the games that Sweet Baby Inc. have worked on. They call it the Sweet Baby Inc. detector or detected or something. He makes the Steam page. The Steam page
detected.
People laugh at it, so it's a bit of a joke because we all kind of knew that Sweet Baby Inc. was a thing. It was kind of floating around in the cultural space.
I'm not gonna pause anything, but
The minute
I'm just gonna lower this really quick. Cabrutus is just a regular guy that wants to play video games. That's all he ever. That's it. He's like under tremendous amount of stress. People are putting him on his shoulders, and he's really appreciative of this shit. But think about it. He's not an activist. He's not right wing. He's from Brazil. He's just a gamer. And they're coming after him, and they're over here like, both sides. There's no both sides, assholes.
Well, putting a bunch of their games in a list. And then saying, don't play these games. Yeah.
Well, they didn't even really say don't play these games.
Review bombing, definitely.
What?
In fact,
were they?
Yes, and I've got some screenshots that I can pull up.
Who fucking cares, bro?
Exactly what is.
If you want, here I'll give you permission to share your screen if you'd like.
Bastard.
Hold on, give me 1 second.
You can pull them up, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't view review bombing as that big of a sin. You know?
Oh.
Yeah, who cares?
So if there's like a bit of coordination behind the scenes, you know, there's a forum or something, and we're all.
You mean like when people like come together and make accusations of rape threats and stuff? You mean like that?
And yeah, get them. Then that's not okay.
Well, let me tell you exactly what's going on though. Here, so if you look at
Wow, this guy's an asshole. I don't know who this is, but he's a real prick.
Review bomb that game because it was in the spotlight. But also, you can also tell that a bunch of those people never played Skullgirls. They have less than 1 hour because it's Steam, right? You can see how much they played the game when they leave a review. Some people played the game for hundreds of hours. Some people played the game for 0 hours. So if it's a whole bunch of reviews with 0 hours on them, also I think Steam actually allows you to remove those reviews. In fact, if no one's actually played the game, they do because they did it for Skullgirls. So. Yeah. If it's a situation where you have a bunch of people who have played these games and they leave negative reviews because they're pissed off about how the game was made or something involved, that's fine. I'm completely okay with that.
So if I can jump in here, this may be a hot take.
Hey, Mr. 0303, can't handle it?
It hurts to have your game reviewed bomb. But at a certain point, this is this is just the industry, right? You know, it's not like when a developer puts out their game, they don't ask their friends to go rate and review it positively, right? So the other thing happens in the other direction. I would also really argue that the Metacritic reviews, I don't know how y'all see it, but I've always interpreted this as, and SFO, you're probably not going to like this, but like, what does the kind of angry, like typical gamer review think of this game overall? Because I don't think it's like a lot of people like me that go in and spend a lot of time on Metacritic. So I take that with like a grain of salt, and then if I'm looking for something from someone I trust, you know, I will go to Skill Up, or, you know, one of the other reviewers that I really trust on there. So I kind of feel like a certain amount of internet reactivity is based into a Steam review or a Metacritic score.
Who cares? What are you supposed to do?
I completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but who fucking cares? Like, people are allowed to have whatever opinion they want about whatever they want.
Where the audience can come out and just bomb a movie if they don't like it, even if critics do. And I think that sort of two-tiered system is actually pretty good. You know, I like
Just real quick, Soyattle, you are sharing your screen, so if you're opening things, just be aware, because I just saw you open something. You don't want a box situation.
open the box folder. Do it.
Anyway, but yeah, so just, I'll let you go, Dev, in a second, but just to contextualize what's on the screen here, Soyattle is sharing, I'm assuming, screenshots of what he considers review bombs, and we'll have that up while Dev continues, please.
Oh my god, they're echoing.
Now it says that, you know, not recommended, 0.2 hours on record. The only thing that it says is Sweet Baby Ink, right? Now, because I've seen, I saw the Skullgirls developers delete a bunch of reviews like this, then surely these people can do it as well. If these are illegitimate reviews, they can be removed from Steam. I'm not too worried.
And I think that's happened for Suicide Squad versus the Justice League. If you actually go and look, this one's Assassin's Creed Valhalla. That was restricted in a different way that I found a little funny. But basically, yes, I think that Suicide Squad versus Justice League has been scrubbed, but some of these others are not. And so if I'm looking at this list, we've got a whole bunch of games. Two of them, Dungeons & Dragons, Dark Alliance, and what was the other one? It was...
Game is too loud still? Okay, I'll lower it some more.
When I navigated those pages from the curator list, it told me the content was not available. Now, Tachyon said on his phone it worked, so maybe it was a glitch, but...
That better? Let me know if that's better.
For the big game companies, there's definitely the power, they have the sway over Steam to get these negative scores removed, these negative reviews removed. However, if we look at games like NeoCab, Kingdom 80s, Shadow Gambit, and Battle Shapers, those are all indie games that had Sweet Baby Ink content in them, and they're probably feeling awful about this. Like,
sounds better.
They
okay.
might not have the sway to get these scores, these reviews removed from Twitch. If you listen to Thor, who's just blown up recently on Twitch, he says that he's powerless to kind of remove bad reviews, negative reviews from his game. As an indie developer, he's just at the mercy of the crowd, where giant corporations, well, they can kind of put their thumb on the scale a little bit.
Well, Soyattle, do we have any...
Neat Scholar says never heard of any of them. Brianna Wu is in the upper right corner. Very vocal during Gamergate, but like was just trying to insert himself into it. And Dev is the one that's like on the middle left.
You can take it off.
And he was also involved from back in the day, kind of like hung out with Sargon and stuff. But I mean, overall, like, Dev's takes are very mid to me. I mean, he's on the side of Gamergate, but, he's not, like, willing to, like, call out the demon by its name, or at least not, like, fervently like I am. So,
like, how the timeline lines up, how...
Steam ran defense for Skullgirls. They're compromised at best, complicit at worst. Well, in what way? Because I believe Skullgirls was attacked for like too much like sexualization.
How they took a
So am I wrong about that?
it's just sort of a consequence.
I know the artist who created Skullgirls, who I've talked to. He was basically like driven out of the industry in a way
This has been a problem with Metacritic. And
by these woke
the-
people.
the Steam-
So like they're like getting into the weeds here, talking about Metacritic and stuff.
You know,
I'm gonna lower this for a
it's great
second.
to kind of look at these.
I really don't care that much about like Metacritic and like these like rating systems and review systems, because that's not really what this is about, right? Like the issue is, are women being harassed out of gaming? Is the people in Gamergate, are they harassers and doxers and violent extremists and right wingers, etc.? Is there even anything wrong with being right wing and being a gamer, or worse, being a Christian gamer? Because Endymion, who they talked about, he's like a Christian guy that likes to play video games. He's not bothering anybody. I think Cabrutus, who set up the Steam group, is also a Christian guy that likes to play video games. He just doesn't want this progressive bullshit in them. And he doesn't want like people to be banned from making those games. He doesn't want people to be banned from playing those games. He doesn't want people banned from making those, or like from buying those games. He just wants people to be aware that this shit is going on. And it's not even about the games.
I was talking to Brianna before.
All right, let me see what this guy has to say.
I talked to Cabrutus in DMs. He shared screenshots of the Sweet Baby Inc. employee telling people to mass report him and things like that. I guess my question is, given that, as you said, Bree, the lesson should be to let them have their say. The articles I've read, and I've read a few of them. There's one in Guardian, there's one in Kotaku, there's a few other articles that were published in other various things. They all don't seem to be doing that, right? They all seem to be saying that this isn't about the quality of the games, but this is merely a harassment campaign. That this is people who don't like black people in their games,
Yep.
like women in their games,
Yep.
don't like feminism in their games, who think the games are going woke, they don't like their pronouns and things like that, and this is their way to direct review bombs, as Soyattle has pointed out. Like, what would be the response to that? Like, because that seems to be the party line, at least amongst the journalists.
Think it's true?
I think it's true.
That's true.
Bullshit. Wait a minute. We're not gonna
Segment of the gaming population.
wait. Fuck you, bitch. We're not going to like look at the idea or the fact that most of these people, a lot of these people, are themselves minorities and women. That's not gonna come up at all.
I've seen some people who have been like, "There's a black person in this game. It's woke," and it's like, "Are you fucking retarded?" No, that's not what's happening. No, that's obviously too far in the other direction now, right? But there's definitely some people who they're tired. They're tired of basically having morality spoon-fed to them in their art, and it's been happening now.
It's not art if it's propaganda.
I'm tired of it.
These things are mutually exclusive. Is Dark Souls racist and sexist?
There was that image that I pulled up where it's like,
Because it's popular and nobody's saying, "Oh my God, this game is woke."
tell the difference between Metal Gear Solid, BioShock, and then the picture of Trump bumping into Peter Griffin in Family Guy, right? And like, that's what's going on there, is that those games, they did have a political conversation, but they did not beat you over the head with it. They did not tell you what to think or how to act. They allowed you to. Yeah, I'll even say, like, I remember there was a controversy over Far Cry. Was it 5? The one with like the Christian cult, right?
Yes.
Was it 5? Yeah. There was a controversy back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's controversy back then of people saying like, this makes.
Lindsay's trying to call me. Hold
It was
on.
actually a really good game. It was actually a really good game.
Love that.
So it's not about, we don't want politics in the game. It's that we want it to be better than what we have had, basically. And there's been some shit fucking games.
And
I
if
disagree.
I can add on to that for just, this will be super quick. There's also a constituency that goes the other way. Like, look at what happened with Cyberpunk 2077, the Mix It Up girl. Like, if you've played this game, there's a trans woman with a very large penis that's like wearing a leotard, right? And you see the outline of it, and it's all over Night City. It's everywhere, right? And trans Twitter got really, really upset about this game because it did not, in their view, like have trans representation.
No, because they're narcissists! Because you're a narcissist! Because even when you get representation, it's not good enough! Oh, the dick on the fictional trans person in the cyberpunk video game is too big! It makes me feel insignificant! It's cyberpunk! That shit's normal in the fucking dystopian future! I can't believe you're still trying to rationalize this!
Politics, you know, it's sort of like, it's not about politics and games, it's just that it's lazy politics and games. And if that's your position...
No, it's not. It is about, okay, look. It's about the politicization of our hobbies. That's different.
Based, because she is approached by companies who are like, yeah, we kind of feel we need like a token black person in this game, and she's like, whoa, don't just do that. That's lazy.
No, don't. That's, oh my god, this fucking guy. This fucking guy.
A good story out of this like weird political selection you've made, and so they're there to serve that corporate need.
So,
And if that's all they were doing, I would agree with you. Yes.
Yeah, it's not that. It's fucking propaganda, dude.
So we can be clear, okay? Because the problem with again, I did a lot of research on this before the show over the weekend. I spent a lot of time looking into a lot of things. The problem is it seems like we're having like 3 different conversations and 3 different kinds of threads that people are
Yeah, and it's like,
pull on.
that's a good point, KD. Look,
Totally semi-collected.
if you politicize your games and in your fucking talks you literally say, I'm sick and tired of seeing straight white dudes in my games, why the fuck would anyone want to buy your game? Like, can you imagine if there was a game that existed? These people would lose their minds, by the way. If there was a game that existed that was programmed by somebody who was a member of the Westboro Baptist Church and they had God hates fags signs all over the game, right? These people would want them banned from the internet. They would want them banned. So why is it's okay when they do this shit? This is what I'm saying. These people are not interested in... It's not just that they're hypocrites. It's not just that they're inconsistent. They don't give a fuck about it.
Consulting firms, and like, let's be honest,
They just want to control.
some of these are. This Sweet Baby Inc. is funded by Eileen
BlackRock.
Brown, and her co-founder both said
Funded by BlackRock.
themselves white settlers, and they
Yeah,
have
that's leftism.
like extreme political ideology.
Canadian
You can
communism, basically.
make games that have those politics in it. I'm not opposed to that at all.
People piss me off.
People look at this, and they're asking themselves, are these progressive consulting firms that put a lot of emphasis on politics, are they making the games better or not? And
They're not,
some
obviously.
are thinking either no.
And what are you gonna do? You're gonna make them play games? This is the thing that it always comes back to. If people choose not to buy your product, what's the problem with that? It's their
So
business.
they don't
This will
trust
take-
them to make
yeah.
good games.
This
Make
will
the
take
games
10
better.
seconds.
It's a failure of capitalism.
I gave a very specific
Fucking
example with some-
Commies.
You're using words like extreme politics, extreme progressive politics.
It is
An
extreme.
example of extreme.
I know you don't think it's extreme because you are extreme.
And,
I
just
think
real quick
calling
for,
yourself
for
a white
just real
settler-
quick for a housekeeping thing. Soyattle, can you stop sharing your screen just so we can have
Okay, fine. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think that calling
Fucking focus, bro. Focus, bro.
white settler,
Okay.
I think that that's
sorry.
No,
probably
in the
indicative
game-
that
I'm probably gonna get killed by this fucking guy right here.
specifically
It
know of
makes sense in
specific
fight.
changes
You
that they
don't
make.
have a specific. This
we
is
need
a
more
huge
transparency.
Scandal. So you don't have a specific thing you can point to saying this is hyper progressive. You're just.
I got it.
No. You're exaggerating. You're exaggerating. It went from this is extreme progressive to hyper progressive. You're already trying to strawman some shit.
Over with you on
Sure.
it was the Assassin's Creed Valhalla one where they completely rewrote the historical story of the Vikings invading the UK and raping and pillaging, bringing back women, stealing a bunch of stuff,
Got 'em.
killing people. They recast them as as migrants who are fleeing their ravaged homeland to try and build a better life. And like, oh my God, this is some European migrant shit all over again. That's what you're casting this fucking story as, and it's ridiculous.
Yep.
I see. This is where it's hard for me to make the connection because we don't know that Sweet Baby Inc. did that
Wu is not an honest actor. No, of course not.
with a long history.
God, these people are idiots. They're pissing me off. Yeah, this could be a rage or inducing experience, so...
That's true. So it could have been some other terrible person working on the game. Yes, I concede that.
Fair. Or corporate meddling.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, corporations? I love it when people do that, too.
That guy who worked...
No, see, the problem is the evil corporations.
...was that people at the top, and I know we've had this conversation like 4 times, Brianna, so it's going to sound boring.
You do your thing. You do your thing.
Yeah. But this is new to everyone else. So people at the top of the company, they're not progressive. They're not ideologically devoted to this sort of politics. They want to do what makes them money. And they're told by people in the company, this is what'll make you money, Put that pride flag in the game, it'll make you money. And then the guys at the top are like, really? Like, we don't fucking know. We just want to make money. And so they're told to do it, right? And that's what ended up happening with Saints Row, because when I interviewed the guy who worked on, he's like, yeah, they brought in these writing consultants. We weren't allowed to countermand them. They were writing shit.
Well, but they're consultants, though. Their job is to tell... See, like, this is another thing that pisses me off, okay? Hold on.
Just progressivism. It's progressivism combined with people at the top of these companies.
No, Dev, you're wrong. No, motherfucker. Look, listen. The game developers and the producers, they want to maximize profits. Nothing about that is wrong. That is fine, okay? They are listening to people who are activists that literally hate the idea of profit because they're fucking commies, okay? So the problem is that the developers bought into the notion that the consultants want what's best for their company. And the consultants get paid by like NGOs and government organizations like, these like Infinite Ammo and shit like that. So they get paid before they do this. So they're not interested in turning a profit around. So it's not corporate greed plus wokeism, because the corporations are ignorant. So I mean, like, at worst, that's what they're guilty of. But these woke fucking people, they are intentionally tearing this down. They have to be stopped. The corporations can just be better informed. And the thing is, with these people, I'll go back a little bit. With these people here, Brianna Wu and this other guy, they are on the side of the wokies because they are ideologically like possessed, right? They're MK Ultra. They can't let go. They can't, because they feel like if they do, it's gonna be, Trump, Wall, Handmaid's Tale, fucking Jim Crow, like all of the stuff. Trans people being thrown into vats of lava, like all of the bad things are gonna happen. And so they cannot let go. They can't. And Dev is Canadian, so, like, I don't know what to do. I mean, he's kind of like a lost cause in that way. Anyway, let me get back to this.
2023, over 16,000 specific layoffs.
Yeah, it's not profit driven. It's a shakedown. That's right.
There's an estimate that only 1 out of every 6 are going to retain their jobs in the next 6 months.
Only 1 out of every 6?
Yep.
Only 1 out of every 6. So some of the layoffs is because the COVID lockdowns went away. Some of it is like we're doing more user-generated content. And here's the big kicker. There's also a surprise tax law change in 2023. It's in section 174. It changes how you can write off development costs. Instead of right there in that year, you have to amortize it over 5 or 15. If it's an H-1B, you have to go over 15 years. So this was there because the GOP and Donald Trump needed to offset the change in the top marginal tax bracket from 39.
Oh, here we go. 1%.
Jeff Bezos and all the other American billionaires get a huge,
oh my God,
$2.2 trillion tax reduction.
The solution to the Gamergate problem is communism, guys. Thank you so much.
In effect, it'll balance our budget, right? They're fiscal
for helping me figure this out.
Someday. Not
Motherfucker.
when we pass the tax cut, but 5 years down the road when it's not their problem.
Lefty reaching. It is, isn't it?
Have to do.
I forgot about that guy.
That is my question.
Sweet Baby Inc. is a vendor providing services. You get to write that off immediately. They're in Canada. They're not a part of your American tax.
It's the government. It's the government.
Literally.
It's the Canadian. Look, dude, the Canadian government is funding them. It's a government entity. Government entities, by definition, are not part of the free market. This is not capitalism.
Write it off. Great. I'm gonna like make a lot of money and get to write off all of those contractor scripts right away instead of having to amortize it over 5 years.
I mean, that sounds plausible, right? I don't know anything about this specific instance that you're talking about, but I do know something similar happened with journalists during
Right.
2018, 2019. It was during Trump's 4 years at some point, where basically Obama passed something that basically provided a whole bunch of money for journalism, and then it was 5 years again. In 5 years, when it ran out, there was a shit ton of journalist layoffs, and I think it was 2018 or 2019 when a whole bunch of them lost their jobs because the money ran out, and it was all just kind of provided for by the U.S. government.
So
we also had Gawker get sued out of existence. That's another thing.
Sure.
Well, they deserved that, though, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
To bring this a little bit back, right? And I just want to pose some questions to the group. Do we think that the games industry today is in a better or a worse place than it was 10 years ago? What do we?
Worse. Easily.
Generally worse, but the highs are higher, I think.
What do you mean by that? Can you elaborate?
There have been some really good games in the past 5 years. Some really fucking...
Nah, they were. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't think it topped.
The fans are rewarding them, but it is kind of a flash in the pan. Like we saw Pal World up and down. Helldivers 2 is going to be up and down, and hopefully
No, Helldivers 2 is blowing up.
but and hopefully they don't like disappear in 6 months. We're not flavor of the month because this is the alternative between a live services game like Kill the Justice League and Helldivers 2 or Helldivers 2 has seasons, so maybe not. But Pal World, if that's one and done, is that going to leave someone who didn't catch it on the wave with FOMO, with missing out on a good thing, and is the developer going to be putting money on the table? Which is the reason in the games industry, the reason we have in-app purchases and season passes and all this bullshit to keep the game alive.
Yeah, just to bounce off of that, I mean, when Gamergate started, I remember going to GDC and seeing a talk about Mass Effect 3 coming out, right?
Brianna Wu has not much to add about Gamergate, by the way. She wasn't really involved. She was inserting herself mostly.
And please correct me if you disagree with this, but
like she's doing now.
I think one of the forces that's happened in the game industry is budgets have exploded. I remember when Alpha Protocol came out. This is a completely forgotten Sega published title.
I haven't forgotten it.
I love that game. It came out in the aftermath of Mass Effect, right? I'd probably guess from having played this was probably a $10 to $20 million game to develop. It's not a AAA game, it's just a solid A release, like by a major publisher. Those games barely exist today. And the budgets for these games have
It's a mixed bag, bro.
Exploded as everyone's trying to be the next Call of Duty or, like major thing. So there are a lot of things to critique about the game industry. And I think most of them, honestly, are the money men that have corrupted this whole field and made it really hard.
It's the money men. Always blame the fucking corporations.
There's a reason you don't get games like that anymore. So
you know what the problem is?
Things I find so frustrating with the Sweet Baby Inc. thing is.
Oh, let's hear this. Let's hear this.
The games suck nowadays. You are completely correct about that.
But she's gonna say it's not because of the wokeness.
Wrong, forces for it.
Nope. Nope.
But
Nope.
Well, hold on. I don't think I am though, because I'm
talking about gamers abroad.
Yeah. So, because I'm only partially blaming Sweet Baby Inc. They're a small piece of the puzzle. I admit that, right? Like there's a lot going on here.
Yeah, I
like,
guess.
sorry, what
Wait a minute, Dev. See, this is this fucking mid fence sitting bullshit. Okay, look, if a game is bad, like let's look for example. Okay, Marvel, what is it? The Avengers game that Square put out. Okay, it was objectively bad. It was just bad. Okay. I mean, it wasn't, it was, you know, like, it was repetitive, it wasn't done well, it just wasn't handled in the same way that, say, if you might remember the X-Men Legends, which is like a 4-player co-op, kind of like, you know, top-down type of action RPG, or Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like, those were done really well, okay, and that came out, like, in the, what, early 2000s, something like that, late 90s, I think it was, like, more like in the 2000s, right? The Marvel's Avengers, or yeah, I think it was Marvel's Avengers. That one was, you know, very highly anticipated, kind of a big deal, and it wasn't very good. Now, was it woke? A little bit, because they had they were trying to cram Ms. Marvel in there, you know, because they were trying to make Ms. Marvel happen, and she just wasn't going to happen. So but that wasn't really the problem with it. But again, nobody really said that was the problem. Nobody really said, I'm not buying this game because Ms. Marvel. It's just their whole thing was, well, look, if you're going to put her in there, I guess, whatever, I'll just play one of the other characters. I want to be, you know, because nobody plays a Marvel game about the Avengers, especially at the peak of the popularity of the Avengers from the movies, if they're not going to be able to play Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, or the Incredible Hulk. Like, they're just not, okay? So trying to cram that in there, it didn't work. The studio, they also put out was it Gotham Knights, all right? Also not good. Didn't work out. Was it woke? I don't even know. Didn't really come up. It just wasn't solid. The problem with the Suicide Squad was partly the development, the problems with the game itself, the bugs, etc. But what matters is that the politics, the story changes, all of the woke shit took priority over those things. Like, it was like those story things, those elements were so important they didn't even care about whether or not the game worked. They didn't care. And this, you could say this is the fault of like the devs or the direction or whatever, but I wouldn't say Sweet Baby Inc. is to blame for the problems, but I would say that there is an issue with how much is invested. And why are they so butthurt about Helldivers 2? Because it literally is just a fun game that has like a fashy look, and they're losing their minds. And they're like starting to become concerned. I have a video coming out later, by the way, that's going to show the connection between the Department of Homeland Security and gaming, which is going to blow your mind. I might put it out later today. It depends, because Lindsay is, I got to pick her up a little early, and I'm going to be listening to the rest of this, or at least as much of this as I can stomach. So, you know, I'm just saying that, like, it is mostly that, because the thing is, if Sweet Baby Inc. was not involved, this would not be a controversy, because it would be a bad game, it would get bad reviews. Maybe the developer would have been like, there would have been a group saying, look, this developer fucked up, Rocksteady isn't the same, whatever it is, let's not buy games from them anymore. People wouldn't buy games from them anymore, and that'd be the end of it. But because it is a woke progressive company that doesn't understand the basic concepts of freedom to buy whatever you want with your money, all right? Couple that with freedom of association, being able to say, you know what, that's not for me, I don't want to do that, I'm not going to give them my money. They don't understand that concept, they fight against it. That is the problem. It's not the games, it's not greed, corporate greed, it's not that. It's simply when the gamers, the customers, your audience says they vote with their dollars and they say, I'm not going to open my wallet for this, and you have a problem, and you ask that their Steam groups be shut down, that Cabrutus loses his account, which means he loses all of his games, you know, you want to shut down their Discord, you want to shut down conversations about this, you want to threaten people on LinkedIn. Those are the problems. That's the problem. And the reason is because these communists, because that's what they are, they don't like the idea of consent. They don't. They despise it. They don't like the idea of people making choices with their money and their time as adults. And because of that, that's why they're the villains. That's why there's no two sides. What's the middle ground between people who want to be left alone and people who can't leave you alone? What's the middle ground there? That's what's happening. And I don't know that Dev is even gonna get this. He's gonna he's too fucking milquetoast, man. Too milquetoast.
When we talk about how a lot of the criticisms for Sweet Baby Inc. is that they have somehow, and I'm sure you've all seen the clips of them, of their, what was her name? Please remind me.
Kim Belair? Or...
Yeah, thank you.
The woman who hates white men?
Oh, you should really pressure your marketing team, pressure your sales team into getting us on board because we're going to make your game profitable. We're going to appeal to the money men. So,
the woman who hates white dudes? Yeah.
The game, it seems to be like connected to the criticism of Sweet Baby Inc. That Sweet Baby Inc. has used that fact and pressured these money men, or somehow tricked them, or gotten into bed with them, or the accusations vary, and they are being used to sell kind of a soulless product. Does that make sense?
They're playing the game 100%. They're coming in and telling you that there's a constituency for this particular point of view and that they can do it better and cheaper than other people can do. I think whether that's true or not is an open question.
She said to terrify them. That's the language.
And just one more super.
It's funny, like, things are not hyperbolic until their opponents do it. Then it's hyperbolic. Extreme. What do you mean by extreme leftism? Well, I agree. There's just leftism. I don't think that it's like.
Place than people give it credit for, and I think that also has major ramifications for the transparency and the integrity in the choices that are made.
Yeah, I mean, that was the big thing during Gamergate 1, right? For those of us who weren't out there harassing people, that was the big thing. It was like, listen, we realized that, man, one story that I haven't talked about yet, was it called like Kim in Dinosaur Land was the game? It was some game that was submitted to the IGF, and because they weren't friends with people who ran the IGF like everyone else was, who won, their game didn't even get played, right? Like, it got judged without getting played because they had access to the runtime. So it was one of these situations where it's like, you have a bunch of indie devs who probably make decent stuff and they're decent people, but because they're on the outside of the clique, they don't get a fair share. And this isn't solely a capitalist problem; it's also a nepotism problem. And
It's not a capitalist. What is a capitalist problem? Dev! There's no such thing as a capitalist problem! It's literally just property rights!
Every industry.
I want to have sex with this girl, but she's saying no. This seems to be a capitalist problem.
It's not what you know, it's who you know at the end of the day. And so to say that
there's no such thing as a capitalist problem, guys.
Who,
if anything, the worst thing it could be is a greed problem. And greed, if you don't know, does not require
all that
it does not require like a market to exist.
Of just how things work. So when we talk about people being transparent with Sweet Baby Inc., because I want to tie this back into what's happening now.
Well, they also have
do developers owe the consumers transparency on working with Sweet Baby Inc.? Is that something that they even owe the consumer?
Whether or not people are not feeling that too, but whether or not they owe transparency, I don't feel like obligated to do so. But it could be nice, and it could help dispel some of the things that people's worst fears about the situation. If they do more.
Well, no, I think they should just. I mean, they want to hide it because they know they're ashamed of it. That's why. They want to trick you into. They want to trick you into buying their product.
The Steam list, which they objected really hard to, was the transparency, because that's part of it too. You have people coming out and saying, "Hey, these people worked on this game." That seems fine to me.
So I want to come back to this is before we leave off of this because it was a topic. Dev, I want to come back to something you were talking about, which is you have a concern that these indie awards are not being judged fairly.
Awards are fake and gay.
Fair critique as someone who is
Awards are gay.
like awards.
Can you guys hear this okay, or is it too low?
But I think like this is what I sometimes find frustrating. It's like an indie award is not the only kind of like way that things.
Yes, Mort Sith, that's right. Greed is not a political problem. Greed is a human problem. It is a problem of people. It is a moral issue.
Is Twitch.
But these people don't believe in morals, right?
It's giving it attention. And if you look at who the biggest Twitch streamers are, yeah, they tend to come from a very certain cohort of gamers, and they tend to have very similar tastes. So I think
What do you mean by what are you talking about? And
what politics are.
what are you talking
no matter
about?
What your message is, no matter what your game type is, you're going to have a certain uphill battle. And I think if you talk to many, women, POC, LGBT,
Shut up!
make games that appeal to those kind of like progressive ideas, I think they would probably tell you they're fighting a much bigger uphill battle.
No! Dude! No, Dev, stop it! Dev, stop it. You can make whatever fucking game you want. You just can't force people to buy it!
10 years ago, they were much more important than they are now, for sure. Now it is all about streamers and YouTubers, but back then that was a big deal, which is why I talked about it 10 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, on the subject of streamers and YouTubers and things, I think this importance of Twitch and large viewerships and things like that, and how it affects gaming and the game industry. I got a little bit of a taste of that when I tried to get the author of the Kotaku article on. She had been tweeting, or they, I'm not sure exactly, they had been tweeting about how they really wanted to talk about this, right? And they were spamming like, please.
But they don't really want to talk about this.
Right? I really need to talk.
Yeah, they want to talk. They want to be in their bubble and do it. That's all.
So
Hassan's gonna give them the bubble they want.
Connection.
It's a bit low. I raise it up.
Kind of clout, like I don't. I'm a very small YouTube boy, right? You don't get a piece of that pie, right? You aren't considered important, and I think that is at play not just in journalism about the gaming industry, but also with the gaming industry itself. It makes sense though, right? Like, obviously you want the biggest names to play your games. Obviously you want the biggest names to talk about your topic, and it's just a good use of your time. So I'm not exactly complaining here, but I'm just kind of drawing parallels. But I know Soyattle wanted to say some things.
Oh, I was gonna soy about Brianna removing.
This guy's literally calling himself Soyattle.
Is that what it's about? Because I don't think it really is.
What are you talking about?
These people, especially these like left-wing men,
It's so hard.
they don't have any idea how superior they think they are to everybody.
Spaces. Does that mean removing white dudes? Does that
Yes,
mean that?
of course it does.
Or into that in any way.
Okay.
That's what they've done.
Because Endymion is saying this. He is literally saying this on his videos, and that's what drives
This guy's got
controversy.
he's got a hate boner for Endymion.
The base.
Endymion's seems like a really cool dude to me.
I saw one video.
I've never heard of him. I've never heard of him before.
I sent you 5 videos, and you sent me one back, Tachyon.
I
Come
didn't
on.
watch all those.
Okay.
So no offense.
You have to hate this guy. I hate this guy. You have to hate this guy too. Dude, he's not wrong.
No, that's it.
Like, diversity just... Tell me if I'm wrong, okay? What does diversity mean to these people? What does it mean? What does inclusivity mean to these people? When they say it, what does it really mean?
Protection racket kind of.
It doesn't mean what they say it means. They're lying. We know this, right?
2019. She says, "Hey,
Uh-oh. Nigga's coming. Come on, nigga.
available for consulting because it sure sounds like you might need it."
Yeah.
Whole of the
Anita?
for what sounds like some potentially sexist representations.
Yes.
We all know
That's right.
within the past. Now that strikes me as being somewhat protection rackety, very much so.
Yeah, it is.
Comments a little bit. She did say
It's very similar. It's very
She
similar.
also caveat her statement by saying that if the game developers in the room agree with the perspective, then they should go to the marketing people, which is a little bit different than publicly blasting them on Twitter, a specific company, and demanding that they hire you.
Is
We're
this
up to
something
section.
that people feel are happening though, on a
It-
systemic basis or on a
Oh, shut up!
basis to be actually
Systemic.
criticism though?
Stop using their language.
Yes, I'm not. I'm not
Stop
against development.
using their language.
Follow some on Twitter. I do follow. I do.
I mean, I'm murdering you, but am I murdering you institutionally?
I don't
Is it a systemic murder?
think.
The fuck are you talking about?
Like when Dev was first telling me about this whole Sweet Baby controversy, I'm gonna be real with you. It seemed like a nothing burger until they got to the harassment part by the employee, and then it was like, okay, maybe this is a big deal, right? Because that's, I think, the line for me. When employees
Did you watch
of
the
a
2
company-
hours, Which? Did you
It's a
watch
line
the
for me.
2
I
hours?
did watch the 2 hours, but that was
Yeah.
mostly like litigating.
It was
anyway.
backstory, yeah.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah. I think it is a line for me too, like going after Kabrutus's Steam account. Like for me, I sort of instead of
Oh, you think that's a line?
I'll tell you.
Wow, that's really charitable of you. Yeah, I guess that's going a little far. Trying to get his Steam account banned.
If you look at
He's
the harm,
I love these fucking people. They're like,
we're talking, let's say triple that. Let's say like $45,000.
he's Brazilian. Do you know how much it costs to buy video games in Brazil because of their, by the way, fucking communist president?
Is that victory if you get that much out of these independent game developers and the major corporations? If you get like one contract canceled from Sweet Baby Inc., is that victory or do you want more?
That is a good question. To Dev and to Tachyon, like, what's the win state for you? Since you guys, let's be real, Gamergaters lost. They lost.
Well, to clarify though, where
I think they lost
both in
that, yeah,
2016, that's fine. But in 2016, most of them felt like they won, according to Brad Glasgow and Chris Ferguson's research. And when I interview people now, most of them think that it was either somewhat or.
I hate these fucking
My
PvP guys.
My point though is, what does, and to Soyattle's question, what does victory look like with Sweet Baby Inc? What changes do you want to see? What do you want to see happen, right? That would satisfy you. That would right whatever.
Of course.
You think is going on, please.
Well, I can make it
Oh, I'm alive. Oh shit.
leave the list up. Be public about who actually what games are worked on by that company, and then allow people to decide whether or not they want to buy them. And then if things go the way that I think they'll go, those games will bomb. They will stop selling, and then eventually that company will stop getting work.
So
You
I have
mean
a
all
comment
the-
on that.
I think that's a great
Hold on,
answer.
Hold on. One at a time.
Yeah.
We're gonna go to Bree, and then we're gonna go to Tachyon, then we're gonna go to Soyattle. That's the order we're gonna go in. Go ahead.
I agree with you, Dan, and I think one of the really good things about that is a congenital problem in the game industry is getting credit for your work. And I think demystifying, like making
God.
sure all these side companies and the people that work on them are properly credited. This is a huge issue. So it's transparency for the consumer, and it's better for the workers in many ways.
The
To
workers.
say though, Tachyon, I have a very
Jesus
specific
Christ.
question for you right now. Why are you not showing your face today? My face is here. My real name is here. Anyone can look.
What a bitch. I mean, I disagree with Tachyon. He's got TDS, like really bad.
Why do you-
But
I am public. My name is Kevin McDonald, and
Okay, fair.
I've written a book. I'm not on camera. I don't have a webcam. I do tons and tons of book interviews that go like 7 hours. I don't
Okay,
like being
fair
on
enough.
camera.
Let
so
me
I
just
find
come back to my point then. Why do so many of the people doing this do so from anonymous accounts? What if
because you guys dox them and ruin their
they
lives?
get investigated and harassed and all that kind of stuff, right? So you
What?
understand why
Dude,
it's also
this person is crazy.
pride for people not wanting to get harassed by people in the game industry. I can tell you people that worked on Call of Duty.
This is
had to
ridiculous.
get law enforcement
Hey,
involved
guys.
because they changed the way a gun was working, and they got crazy death threats about it. There is a very weird element of the game industry with a player base that can go nuts and harass the hell out of you, and that's true for game developers. It's true for
Tell me more, Brianna.
everyone. So
Tell me more.
more transparency, but I understand why there's this impetus not to want transparency when there's so much, when there is a huge harassment problem that everyone faces.
Do you,
Yeah, I
do you
mean,
wanna
I
respond? Go ahead.
yeah, I agree that obviously anyone who's engaging in harassment, I don't support that. Don't do that. Don't send people death threats. I think everybody on the panel is in agreement about this. So you asked Wick about what can be
What does
done.
victory look
Yeah.
like in this situation?
I don't know. I mean, I don't necessarily consider myself like to be one of like the activists necessarily working against, like SBI or progressive consulting groups.
Is it an activism? Is it activism to just be like, I'm not gonna buy their stuff, or is that just being a consumer? Like, what the fuck?
People about this controversy, and a lot of the people who are upset, they just say, yeah, I think that obviously they shouldn't engage in the harassment, and they should just let it stay up and let people make their own purchasing decisions. That seems to be the general consensus. Now, like as for like an idealized world, I think we're probably gonna have to look at like the actions beyond just the Sweet Baby Inc. controversy. We're gonna have to look at like the way the game's press and like the Guardian too covered it, because
Yeah, because they're all in the same fucking club. The woman who wrote the Guardian article literally worked at like fucking some game company or something.
PC Gamer, Eurogamer.
Yeah, it's the same shit, dude.
Guardian and Media Matters. None of them
Yeah.
talk about what happened. None of them talk about the Steam group at all. Now, PC Gamer does mention that Sweet Baby Inc. employees mentioned it on Twitter. They didn't say that they directed their followers to go and mass flag them, though. So none of all these gaming sites, and the Guardian was especially like egregious, they don't cover the story. We know that some of the writers who wrote these articles, like Alyssa Mercante of Kotaku, they knew that there was more to the story. We know because COD, this was from the Side Scrollers podcast, actually, they interviewed Cabrutus. And COD, this user of the Discord, did an interview with Alyssa Mercante that she didn't run with, and she didn't include any details.
Wu is obviously there to do damage control. Actually, this Soy, whatever his name is, Soyattle, he's worse.
And it's not just her.
If that can be believed, I think he's worse.
Don't send them like death threats or anything.
I think Brianna Wu's kind of like mentally ill, personally, but
like probably should be terminated or severely reprimanded, and there needs to be like an apology and retraction from these companies, these gaming sites.
Will that mean that the list will come down if they sort of face those consequences? Because I'm looking at all these.
He's a free individual; he can make his own decisions.
Okay, because I'm looking at all these indie dev studios. Not EA, not the folks who make Dungeons and Dragons and Assassin's Creed and Suicide Squad, but the indie devs who have like 3-4 games on their Steam pages. Like they don't even have a Steam page. They're so small. What's going to happen with them?
Well, the people who are subscribed to this curator group, they're going to see that Sweet Baby Inc. worked on those games, and they can decide for themselves if they want to buy it or not.
yeah, that's all it is.
And maybe
It's not even. That's just the market doing what it do.
and refund it, because that's happening. They're getting 0.2 hour, and so are you going to
They have a right to do that.
Steam reform this and get them to maybe automatically scrub any review with less than an hour? Is that something you'd be in support of?
Yeah, probably. I think. I mean, I don't know, because you could like buy a game, play it 15 minutes, it's complete and utter shit, like the Gollum game from last year or something, and then leave a negative review, right? Like, I don't know.
Right.
I do know that you can report reviews that are very clearly
The Great
from some
Indoors
sort of review bomb
1979.
campaign.
That's
you can
not
report
cool.
them to Steam, and Steam
Let's
does
keep the conversation focused on gaming and fun stuff, not someone's personal information.
Oh, don't do that. Oh, and they're probably a venti in Seattle sizes. Notice how Dev's been muted for the last 15 minutes. Dog whistle detected.
take action. So
So
use the service.
I want to come back to this because I feel like we skated past this, and I really want everyone to engage on this because I think this is
Oh my
a
God.
central point of
Are we
contention.
going to talk about how you're harassed?
And look, to be clear,
Harassment.
about is not a left versus right problem. And to really
Let's find. Yeah, let's see. I want you to tell me. Let's see.
So again,
Okay.
going back to Cyberpunk Night City. That
Oh my God, really? 2077, you mean?
huge like controversy about a woman with a penis in this game and like the genitals.
What is wrong with you, Brianna? Are you just a pervert? Is that what it is?
And then
There's no non-binary option? Oh my
use the
God.
hashtag won't be
Stop it.
erased. and a bunch of the fringe leftists doxed and harassed the hell out of them. Right. So the thing I feel like there's tension on, and again, this is not a right versus left issue.
It's not.
There is this extremely acrimonious player base that does get really weirdly parasocial with devs and journalists that make the games. So it's not surprising to me when, I think we all agree, ideally the Sweet Baby Inc. thing, like this should be public, they should leave that list up. I also understand the kind of defensive crouch that makes people make bad decisions. So how do we agree at all that there is some legitimate frustration within the game industry at just nut jobs coming and making your life a living hell?
Yes, and it's
Yeah.
not just the games industry, right? Because
Right.
like it's just the internet at this point, man.
Exactly.
I know that there's definitely been cancel brigades from the right that have gone after left-leaning people, and the other way around. Like
Where?
an Antifa group and my
Wait.
So like I know.
What are some of the cancel routes, the groups that he's talking about?
The internet.
I want to know. Does anybody know of any examples? Because like if it's just like boycotts, that's not canceling. Like Bud Light, that's not cancellation. That's just a boycott.
This is
Anybody can choose to spend their money however they want.
a problem.
It is.
I want to talk about
It's a leftism problem.
mitigate this in ways to kind of address it when it does happen, because the frustrating part for me is that they aren't wrong, right? People like Otaku and these other things, they aren't wrong when they say that much of this, not all of it, maybe even not a majority of it, but much of it is acrimonious because they have pronouns in their. It's a political statement that is being made by the people who are critical of them. They are doing it because they don't want. They say they don't want politics in the game, but it's not. It's a political statement they're making, and so they aren't wrong when they highlight that, but it misses, I think, the larger point of a lot of the criticism. And I don't know how to square this circle. Does that make sense? Soyattle, you're trying to go? I don't mean to call it.
Oh, I was going to say that, Tachyon even has the data for this. Like, he went over the data from his own pre-selected.
Is anyone on our side in this conversation, or is this just like
91%
middle ground shit and far left shit? Is that this is the Overton window right here?
late Gamergate,
Yeah,
right?
but also it should be pointed out that the way they asked the question was a little bit weird. But yes, a lot of people do, they don't think it's necessarily like Gamergate was the culture war. A lot of people do.
Hey, 20 people watching. Welcome, guys. Thanks for coming.
They think that I could just pull up the data, shoot.
Yeah.
Except it'll be just a minute. So if you want to keep going, I'll pull up the data in the meantime.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this is Tachyon's own survey
Chris
in
Ferguson and Brad Glasgow's research, not mine. I interviewed both of them.
But where did the participants came from? An open call to people who supported Gamergate pretty late in the arc, and so this is a pre-selected group of supporters.
It says you're a heretic. You're a heretic.
I think it's pretty good data, but yeah.
You're right, but it is a pre-selected group. And this was like after Not Your Shield, after Anti-Harassment Squad, after all of the the reform of the Gamergate movement.
Do you see that, how they just kind of brush over the Not Your Shield thing? This is why I say Not Your Shield is not really going to work. Because these people don't give a fuck about that.
I kind of don't want
they really
feminists deciding what are in some games. That's the reason I'm involved in this. That's the reason that we need to be aware and be activated. This is...
Is that what
the population
culture war means in that data? I haven't seen this before. I don't know what's going on.
Are you familiar with Brad Glasgow's work, SFO?
I've heard the name, but I don't remember who he is.
Okay. Yeah, he was a journalist. He worked with Chris Ferguson of I think at the time he might have went to the University of Central Florida. Now he's with Stetson University. And they actually have a peer-reviewed paper. Here it is. I'll pull it up on
Okay.
Worked with him
Screen it,
a lot during Gamergate. He, I'm surprised y'all don't know this. He did a lot of the work behind the scenes, trying to basically put together, SJ Society of Professional Journalist panels. He tried to put together like some.
Zerang says, that's usually how it is. Everyone left of center controls the discourse, which is why everyone right of center should be doing rather than letting these people dictate
Unless
things.
Brand
Yes.
Pascal helped with that too, or Chris.
You know, I did.
I'm pretty sure most of the folks in this are just running damage
I
control.
know I did some work.
Yeah. I mean, they just name drop not your shield and ignore what it means. Yeah, exactly. Well, because it doesn't mean anything. Like, this is the thing that...
A little past the top of the hour. Gang,
me
if
see
you're
what this
watching
guy's
this
gonna
content,
say.
hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, right?
Oh, he's
Help
just
me,
he's doing shilling his channel.
Protected Steam group.
It doesn't do anything because the lefties don't care, right? Like it has no effect on them. Like they will unperson whoever goes against their orthodoxy, and it doesn't actually like make the point it's trying to make either, because what it ultimately does really is it serves the left. So when you play identity politics against the left wins because they use identity politics all the time. So you're basically saying identity politics are valid. I'm just using them this way, right? I don't know why what he's displaying here. I'm just, oh, this is like a statistic of some
I'm
kind.
on record of saying I think in many ways the left is just wholly.
Are you male or female?
Gamergate playbook uses it shamelessly. They use it on me all the time since October 7th.
Hogwarts Legacy,
record,
yeah.
Right, 100%. I'm on record like saying that. So so I think there are two things that are
Trouble Cat says, unrelated, would you be interested in playtesting
Language.
TTRPG system at some point? Like a tabletop game? Because I love tabletop games.
Game industry
yeah, sure. I mean, what is it? Tell me a little bit about it. Maybe just give a brief title and description.
And I think the gamers are kind of picking up on some of the disdain that their critics, their supposed champions actually have for them. I also think it's true that games journalism is so much less powerful and important to the success of games today that like IGN and Polygon are just like maybe a third as culturally powerful as they were a decade ago. So it feels like if y'all want a bigger voice, it seems like there's a whole it seems like the problem is less so, and it seems like there's a solution, right? Because you can go find a YouTuber that makes reviews you agree with, and you can get information about games that's kind of according to your liking. We can all do that. At the same time, I really do think there's this harassment problem that has not gotten better. When I got involved with Gamergate, my mission was to get harassment policy put into law. I worked with people like
Fuck. Well, thank God that didn't happen. What the hell would a harassment policy put in a law look like? Holy shit, Brianna. Why don't you move to the UK or Canada where they do that shit, where they punish people for that?
Reactionary gamers.
Dude, that's insane.
The answer is clearly not.
And she's just saying it like, yeah, trying to like get people arrested for when I feel uncomfortable. Are you crazy?
Kind of like solve this or try to frack and live together, right? Like what's the...
You could try not being a communist. I think I can get along with non-commies.
None. Sorry for the black pill.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I don't think it's a policy issue. It seems to be more of a cultural issue. It seems to be more the fact that
it is a cultural issue. It's a social issue.
We're getting
no. Social media is an excuse.
That we disagree with.
No, the only people that are facing ideas they don't agree with are communists.
Somebody who believes something different, we react very, very negatively.
Mostly, anyway.
It's so new and it's so offensive to us.
Yeah.
It's almost like my generation was the last halfway normal generation because we existed before the internet.
Ooh, a friend.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, on some level, this is not a problem that can be solved with government policy, I don't think.
So let me tell you something you can do as an individual. Like, go out there. This is a good practice. Like, Dev, one of the reasons we became friends is I enjoy listening to perspectives that I disagree with. And for you as an individual, like, go click that SFO video that you think is going to piss you off and try to engage with those arguments. it is.
Well, you just want more clicks,
situation, no matter
SFO.
which political side you're on, because you can't beat your enemy if you don't understand them. And from my own side, progressives, our ability to engage with ideas we disagree with.
You guys are
we're a
funny.
90-pound weakling.
You're so
Just
proud.
go straight to the name calling, and we cannot engage with anyone's arguments, which is why so many people are turning away from it. So.
Am I getting
This
invaded?
is all true. Yeah, this is all true.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh,
But real
okay, go
quick,
ahead.
Bree, what is to be engaged with, right? How do you engage with someone making an okay, I'll just say it. An unhinged fucking rant about how pronouns in Starfield has ruined the game. Oh my god, this is a Soya saying that.
How do you
And
engage?
you're listening to this, and it's
You just leave them alone. No, it's not embarrassing for them.
Starfield was okay. It was alright.
Oh my god, Dark Spirit Firefox has invaded.
Well, I thought it was fine, but it's not gonna win any awards in my book. I played it.
Starfield?
I'm done.
Can people have their opinions? Who cares? Why do you care? This is about controlling people's
Even if you
perceptions.
dislike the game.
That's all this
What's the
is.
problem? How do you engage with that?
shit.
It's
Here we
impossible.
go again.
Other than mocking it and making fun of it.
Another person with a dagger. This is like the thing now.
With that, we did mock it, and mocking is a very effective political tactic. Dev, I think you have a video about that actually. But I think you've got to use
Yeah, this is all they do now.
some.
Everybody who invades, they're all wearing the same mask and they're doing the fucking backstab and
Really a very concrete example here. Tachyon Blue at the beginning of this was talking about a list of that just put information out of games that Sweet Baby had worked on, right? This is a transparency thing.
this is all invaders are in this game now.
This isn't
I don't know if it's cheating or whatever, but they all do the same thing and they just
in good faith, right?
they backstab you. They glitch into your backside.
That upsets us is automatically harassment because it's not.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll even give you the other example, in fact, because this is something that you might have even done it to me, Brianna, back in the day. But I know someone who is a big name in Gamergate did it to me back in the day, where it's like, I did just want to talk about the issue, and I was immediately blocked and called a racist or whatever. Right? It was like, well, what the fuck, like.
Do you know why, Dev?
I remember.
Do you guys see that when they say we're just trying to have a conversation, they're lying? Like they're not. I've been doing this for too long. They're only interested in misrepresenting you,
People who were
casting you as a bigot, and then doing what they want to anyway because they don't believe in compromise or talking about it or whatever. Az was mocking it. Az is right. He did nothing wrong.
people who
Az did nothing wrong.
fear.
You have every right to feel however the fuck you want.
Come on and defend them from, religious Christians trying to censor games.
SFO felt really satisfied to get that minor validating comment from Wu. Yeah. Well, he's trying to be friends with these people,
Play
dude.
with women.
It's annoying.
Nothing going on in
Like,
our lives, but at least
I'm sorry, but I don't need to be friends with any of these
don't have
people.
our backs. It was a major backstab, which is why I think a lot of people, man, I'm thinking back on it. In 2015, Sargon was a Bernie bro, all right, and he's very conservative now. I think a lot of people were just lost.
I don't think he's that conservative.
from the left due to a culture war
I think he's just got common sense.
of the gaming.
Bernie bros are crazy.
Not
Fuck them.
want to admit when they had fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, I got to engage with that a little bit because I think we need to pay attention to the source material for a lot of these things. And I know that Tachyon is kind of in denial about how it is connected. And I don't just mean the fall of Gawker is connected to Peter Thiel, is connected to Steve Bannon, is connected to Donald Trump. I mean, philosophically, and I tried to get him to watch this video from James Lindsay about how the right is trying to fight progressive and calling it the culture war and developing very, very sophisticated tactics and how to engage with the subject and how to dismantle and build power.
Yeah, because it has to be beaten, dude. Critical Marxism is bullshit.
We are really, really fucked. Like,
Well-
we absolutely need to go over the soldiers like heels versus babyface, and we need to find his influencers. We need to find the intellectuals of the right and engage with their strategies, their tactics, and find a way to
See, this is like
the move.
this is a bunch of leftists trying to wrestle with their psyop, their fucking optics.
Screen share for some reason, not to the group here.
I gotta give you a roll. What do you want to screen share?
Well, Soyattle asked me to bring up the study from Chris Ferguson.
Okay.
Here, give me a second. Try now.
Okay.
As a soldier, yeah, I don't know. He's just a guy, man. He's just a gamer.
Work.
Most of these guys just want to be left alone, dude. And they're realizing, look, what the left calls right wing. Let me just make it clear here.
Receipts and receipts.
You know, when these people go, so Sargon's become really conservative, and the left, you know, the right wing. They're just talking about people that are basically normal. They don't realize how far from like normal they have fallen.
Okay.
You know, believing that men are men and women are women, is that a far right position? Because apparently it is now, right? Believing that, like, you know, you want to watch a movie that happens to have a white guy in the lead role. Like if you liked Reacher or you liked Top Gun or you liked John Wick 4, yeah, that's right wing now. Like what? No, you're ridiculous.
In your view, and they could rank each one up into 100%. So ethics and games journalism topped out as a plurality.
But yeah,
followed by
Trump, Brexit,
ideology.
Dr. Randomcam and I both agree that is like how we got here. It is. You don't want to deny it.
Done so far, not necessarily the direction they want it to go in, mind you. I think that's actually the next question.
Right, and I
So
just
they
want
say-
to point out that
I'm gonna put my
reaction to
sign
this
down
was,
for a
I hate
second.
this chart because it actively hides the sentiment, and you were
Well,
very gracious. and thank you for
we're going to go down and
Yeah.
read the other ones too.
yeah.
And then this is what people think it should focus on: 42% or 42 average rather ethics and games journalism, 23% against social justice ideology. And
Yes.
33% against
That those numbers are too low. We need to pump those numbers up.
people talking about any number.
It should have been against social justice ideology from the get-go. It should have been from the
He
beginning.
disagrees.
This is why we're in the mess we're in. Because too many people were like, "No, man, just straighten out the ethics. It's cool. I just want to play my video games. I don't want to deal with politics.
That it is.
If I ignore it and play video games, then I won't be affected." Meanwhile, here we are, wide open southern border,
down to
fucking you know,
feminism.
parents losing access to their children
Okay.
because they didn't transition them.
Consider your games if they had your way.
Groomers in schools, critical race theory.
18% somewhat agreed. 1.8% neither agreed or disagree, and then less than 1% for disagree.
You may not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you.
Developers have changed their games.
Unfortunately, it's the truth.
Feminism. 48% disagree or agreed, strongly agreed. 42%
And then-
somewhat. 6%
Okay.
neither agreed or disagree. 2% somewhat disagree, and 1% strongly disagree.
That makes
And
a lot of sense. Can I ask a clarifying question here? Did I hear you say, Soy, that your goal, your plan? I may have misheard this, so apologies if I did. Did I hear that you wanted to defeat and like get right-wing messages out of the video game industry? Because I would have a really big problem.
Oh no,
If
no.
yeah.
I want to be able to have the equipment to face them in my daily life
Okay,
and
good.
not back
I knew I
down.
misunderstood. Okay,
Yeah, I'm not trying to paper things over. I want everyone to have the capability to defeat these questions head on every day, because we're not going to win in the general election if
What are you trying to
we
win?
need to do that.
What are you
Can't
trying to
talk
win?
to people,
What do you mean by win?
you know,
What does that mean, buddy?
right before the election about issues that matter?
I don't know if I agree with that. What I want is a game industry where every single constituency can have a game for them, right? So Dev did a really good video.
Soyattle is an activist. He can't. I can't believe that. Like if you're from Seattle and that's where you get your name from.
I love
How the fuck is it that you're living in Seattle, Washington, where it's the epicenter of everything going to shit, and you're still a leftist? You're still like, no. It's not, you know, I'm not out of touch. It's the children who are wrong. You're still doing this, dude.
if you want
You lost.
like your
This is not right versus left. This is left versus common sense versus everybody else.
games
It's always been that.
dungeon that like starts off and it's like, hey, is it okay if we talk about sexual trauma? Hey,
Mord Sith says this conversation is supposed to be about gaming, right? Why is the election coming up?
genders, are you male, female?
I mean, you know why. Because that is what this is about.
Take on it.
Why do you think all this shit got amped up in 2024?
Past this idea.
Like with Sweet Baby Inc. and the Department of Homeland Security and everything, and the media and the shit with TikTok and, you know, the Boeing guy disappearing suddenly. Like, all of this is related.
Create the art
It is.
and the best games succeed in the marketplace. That's what I want to move towards.
It
Yeah, I
does.
strongly agree with that, Brianna. Actually,
Yeah.
it's great that we found common ground.
We all say this when we're on these panels together, and maybe I just had the most reasonable people in the world on my show.
No,
right
my
now.
opinion has changed on this week drastically. So
Fair enough. But
I'm being summoned.
10 years ago, yeah.
yeah,
yeah, the reason I'm saying this is because, as Tachyon said, here we may all agree on that, but when you go out into the world, right, when you look at the responses from all sides on these kinds of things, it is always coming up. So with Stellar Blade, I think it's a perfect example. There's a lot of people who I saw from the left who were very unhappy with that game, saying it was over-sexualized, it was anti-feminist, it was all these things, right? And wanted... Hogwarts Legacy is perhaps a better example, right? Much more clear-cut. I think everyone's knows the controversy around that. Your first appearance on my show, actually, Brianna, was you coming to talk negatively about Hogwarts Legacy.
So, and I'll say it again here. I thought that a boycott would hurt Hogwarts Legacy. And look, this is fine. Because right when
This fucking
I didn't
person.
want to buy this game,
Griefers.
I don't like that it has non-binary pronouns in it. God bless. That's your right as consumers, right? I don't like J.K. Rowling, right? I thought that it was reasonable to try.
She's a transfer.
The boycott absolutely failed. And because I care about trans people and trans rights, I said, you know, we need to be.
What rights, Brianna? What rights are we? What rights do trans people
and we need
need?
to find other ways
What
to
rights?
address this issue.
Tell me the rights.
So I
Make the list.
with calling for a boycott. That's just like the right wing has every right in the world to do that if they don't like Sweet Baby.
But, and I agree with you in principle, but what tends to happen is we call for a boycott when it has something we don't like in a game, and so the pressures it puts on the industry are causing very bad games to be produced. Because
How are you?
to be as anodyne and inoffensive and, dare I say, unfun as
Neutered.
possible, because
Well, they
it
are
appeals to
unfun.
the
Yes.
audience possible without
Yes.
triggering one of these sides into calling for a boycott and getting ass mad. That's my problem with the gaming industry today. But go on, please.
I want to challenge this.
To make actually just super fast. I should, just so the audience is aware, I did participate in that survey that we cited earlier. So I was a participant, and then I also I did interview Troy Levitt too, the game developer from Hogwarts Legacy. So
Who's we? Apparently, it's leftists and center
In the case
leftists.
of a boycott, and especially as it pertains.
That's it. It's just these
in the
people.
world. Is it sort of right that we form social cliques around this kind of a movement? Like
Free healthcare, probably top of the list. Yeah, there's no such thing as free healthcare,
party because
and that's not a right.
boycott Hogwarts Legacy.
That's slavery.
Well, there's two different.
You're basically gonna force doctors to do
boycott
shit.
where you don't buy a product and you don't engage with it, and then there's the boycott where you harass people who do. The
Yes.
first one is fine. The second one isn't.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, like there were people out there that put together lists of, like streamers that played, Hogwarts Legacy, right? I think this is a very hard tactic to defend, right? So yeah, I fully
What's the
agree
difference
with that.
between that and putting together a list of games that have worked with Sweet Baby?
Yeah.
Why? you guys
Right.
all seem to be
What's the
okay with
difference?
That list. Why are we not in
Well,
the order?
Harassment.
Like,
It's the harassment.
It's the harassment, yeah. So,
Yeah,
for
really.
example, if you
Sweet Baby Inc. There's no harassment.
played Hogwarts
What are you talking
Legacy,
about?
like personally, it's a little bit deranged, but you can do that. The issue is that they went to people and they harassed them for streaming it, which was completely beyond the pale, completely unacceptable. Shouldn't be happening.
Oh, the people they harass the people playing Hogwarts Legacy? No idea.
who played Hogwarts Legacy and the harassment they received. Because I'm sure, right? Some of the people who made that list, maybe not all. Okay, well, look, the left is so unhinged right now. Maybe this is just an incorrect statement. But ideally, you would have someone.
They've always been unhinged.
I don't want to watch.
It's not right now.
Hogwarts Legacy.
We've been dealing with feminists for 10 years.
I don't want to watch them, right?
More, longer.
So other people who also don't want that can just not watch them. They don't want harassment and things like that. Done.
Yeah,
But we
that's
see
it.
Can lead to harassment. So when you have someone making like a Cabrutus there, making a list saying, hey, I don't want to play any of these games because I don't like Sweet Baby Inc. I don't like what they do. I really don't want to purchase anything involved with them. So I'm going to make a list right there. I don't want any harassment to come. But then we see harassment coming. Is there not a parallel between these two things? What is the specific difference?
Yeah, there's a parallel. But in both cases, I would say you don't blame the list, you blame the harassers. The list itself is fine.
That's
Exactly.
right.
Yeah, obviously. Well, it's funny. The Hogwarts Legacy thing is interesting because,
I know it sucks to have your game torn apart. I know bad reviews hurt.
oh yeah, I bet you know.
Gamers would be more
Revolution 60 wasn't exactly great.
so hard. And no matter the worst game you've ever
Is
played,
it? Is it as hard as streaming though? Hassan would beg to differ.
make that game good for you, and they did the best that they could. And I think if gamers understood the experience of making games, they'd be a little bit less abrasive with their criticism. But that said, like, don't make art if you don't want to get critiqued. Don't go into politics if you don't want to get critiqued, and don't make.
By the way, art is so paused in general. This was an inevitable outcome. How do you make games fun again?
All the feminists, firstly.
Yes, 100%. Yes, based. Most based thing you've ever said.
We need more like.
Get all the commies out.
And Dev, maybe you can make one for white dudes like me, and we'll have like all of these grant programs.
Maybe you don't do that. Maybe you just
Make all these
you know what?
different.
maybe you just listen to the market and
Also,
you try to
it's race
respond.
fund, okay, it funds only white men, and we can get white male games. That's how it'll be.
Yeah,
I sense.
I bet that won't make any money.
Games coming.
I bet that won't make any money.
RTS.
I bet if you started like an Aryan master race fund for white men, you wouldn't make any money.
This game again, like it's been so long since I played one that I've fallen in love with. Maybe that's just me getting older. I don't know. But Brianna wanted to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's the Terminator Dark Fate game RTS. That's really bad. Don't play that. But no, I would say I think games need to go back to basics. I think it's time to get away from these $200 million games. We need
100%.
smaller games with smaller scope, and we just need to be able to present that, which is one of the good things about the Game Pass model, is it does give a chance.
I agree with that. The bloat is bad for like AAA games, but I support AA games anyways. So
to make games are so much more sophisticated today, and tasks that you used to have to get an intern to get carpal tunnel doing, like UV mapping, we've actually got really good tools to automate that nowadays and do textures.
Mario Brothers are white adjacent
LOD in Unreal Engine 5.
because they're Italian.
Pretty decent. So
Well, Italian's just white now, isn't
one of
it?
the problems is when we get better tools.
This is why white doesn't make sense, by the way.
Faster. What has happened is we just keep going even further. We make the game longer. We make the scope bigger.
Oh shit.
I think we need to go the opposite way. I think we need to move back to PlayStation.
Oh, I got summoned right there.
And get the audience more used to that. Because if a game is only costing 10, 20, 30 million dollars to make, we'll have a lot of different kind of games on the market. We'll have more people employed, and we'll have more chances to have fun stuff.
See, I'm not sure, right? I think, as we've improved tools to make games, and it's become easier to make games in some ways, that's allowed a lot of people who couldn't make games before to make games. That's both good and bad, because sometimes you have some real gems in there where they just needed to get over a technological hurdle they couldn't get over 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Now they can. That's great. That also means there's a whole bunch of people who have no fucking business making games that are now making games, and they're shitty games, right?
Name names. Go ahead.
Well, it's one of those things where, like, I know. Here, I'll use some lefty terms just for you, Soyattle. Okay, one of the big downsides of democratizing something is you allow a lot of people who are I don't know, at the bottom of the barrel to get in, and now they can start doing things, and it's like, but
Yeah, there's no standards.
this, you know?
Because you guys are against meritocracy.
But now you have enough tools to, no, rather than it being a pipe dream that they would be gate kept out of due to quality concerns.
Solaire.
Now they
It's a
can
Solaire.
make their shitty game.
My nigga.
Shit it out onto Steam. It's like, well, okay, who does that help? You know what I mean? It's one of those. This is a larger philosophical discussion, but basically, like, as you, as a very general statement, like, as you improve access to something, the quality of it goes down.
I want to read unless you have a direct comment to that, I do have some super chats I want to get to.
No, let's go back and forth on the philosophy. So, because you brought it up earlier, you were like, we don't need to go after heels v babyface over him soying out over the pronouns.
Is he not sewing out because he doesn't like the pronouns?
Of the
He's playing a character.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. No, it's to be able to confront the horse shit like digital homicide. Here's your names. Like, if you remember this snafu back in 2017. Oh god, this was the horrible asset flip developer that tried to sue the Gymquisition.
Oh, okay.
And,
all right.
yeah.
This sounds vaguely familiar. I'm not sure.
Right.
I don't remember.
So this is your example forever. Digital homicide, shady, shitty asset flipper. Let them be known forever.
What?
Soyattle, you said
Well, okay.
that I was in denial
go
about
on, go on.
something?
I think that you are basically not paying attention to the lineage of the arguments that you're engaged with.
In what way?
Well,
You must read Moldbug, son.
Look,
Wick
just
didn't-
hold on, Soyattle. Just be frank, okay?
Yeah.
be frank.
Be frank. Don't.
I'm thinking
Okay. You
All right, let's see what this guy has to say.
at every-
Call him a bigot.
Every interaction that I have with you are defending and denying the bad and only focusing on the good of Gamergate. And I had this big, Twitter thread directed at you where you mentioned my collaboration. I said, hey, wait, these are the things you've got to work on. You have to acknowledge there was harassment. You can't stick your fingers in your ears and pretend that it didn't happen, because it did, and it was cringe. And then
All right, let me just refute this, and then I think I'm gonna end it there. So, the FBI investigated Gamergate. First of all, it's only a hashtag. It's not a club. It doesn't have members. It never did. But there were certain people on social media that used the hashtag the most, and as a result of that, they built a following because you had a bunch of like-minded people talking about the same issues together online at the same time. Among those was Honey Badger Radio, was Hannah and Allison and myself and Randomcam, but it was also Carl and Oliver Campbell and for ShortFatOtaku and V and a bunch of people, Arch Warhammer or and so many others, right? And we all had different opinions on other things, but on that we were on the same page. We could see that there was a problem with ethics in journalism, but some of us believed that that was the only problem, and some of us believed that that was the symptom of a much greater problem. I was one of those people. I believed that it was the symptom of something else, and I knew that if you didn't solve that problem, things were just going to get worse, right? I knew that. And so yeah, not a hashtag, and the FBI investigated it and they found no harassment. No evidence of harassment. Federal Bureau of Investigation. Now, I don't like making an appeal to authority fallacy here, but he's saying you have to accept that it's true when there's no evidence that it's true. So I just want to say that right off the bat. Like, this guy is basically saying it's like an argument that, a lot of people have complained, therefore it must be true.
Then after Gamergate reformed, we might have had something that moved the needle slightly, but that was mostly in motion you know, because of the microfinancing laws that passed in 2012. So no, it's blowing up the benefits of Gamergate and minimizing the harms, and it's just not.
Well, Carl,
It's not something. Go ahead.
I've never said that nobody ever got harassed. I myself received harassment as well, and I know.
Well, but
I've seen
evidence,
some of the
evidence.
yeah, actually, I do have evidence. I've got.
Okay, well,
No,
I didn't
I'm
know this was
mocking
going to be a
you.
litigation of tachyon specifically.
Yeah,
I don't think it's.
so we don't have to go too far
Yeah,
into
well,
this.
look,
But
I've
this
never
is,
said that no harassment happened. I am of the opinion that some of the harassment that people claim has been exaggerated, or that it didn't quite happen the way.
Well, how do you define harassment,
On
dude?
both sides.
Like, what does that mean?
Right.
Oh my
Okay,
god.
fair enough.
Well,
Go ahead, Dad. Go ahead.
Yeah, because there's more to this, because I can actually, even though you didn't see, no offense, Tachyon, it seems like you couldn't get quite into it. I can, all right? So, one of the things that I did over the, Brianna, you mentioned like an hour ago or something.
Why can't this guy be killed?
Agree with, right? Sure. Starting in 2020, I went on a massive reading arc, all right? I read some Marx when I was in university. I've read a lot more Marx.
Whoa, dude, that is broken. Who the hell is
A
this?
whole bunch of left-wing philosophy, a whole bunch of right-wing philosophy. Philosophy just seems to be my thing right now, and I read way too fucking much of it. But like one thing I've noticed is right-wingers.
What is right-wing philosophy?
Left-wing philosophy. Generally,
Yes.
they know like surface level, right? If you talk to like a far right person, he'll tell you who Marx was. He'll tell you the basic idea of what Marx wanted, right? If you
Hold on a second, Dev. How do you define right-wing philosophy? That's what I want to know. How do you define that? Because if it's like Mises and like Ayn Rand and you know, fucking Thomas Sowell, yeah, okay, I guess. But that, even then, or is it like, are you reading like the Bible or something? Like that, that's not right wing implicitly.
talk to a left-winger and ask them
Oh, I wanted to read some comment that I got from before. So, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go back a little bit. I highlighted a comment that I wanted to read. So Troubled Cat says, yes, I'm currently revising the initial system. It's called Dragon's Song, and the setting takes place in a land ruled by Magocracy. Focuses rollover, 3-tier class system, less need for rests. So is it like base in Dungeons and Dragons? Is that the base? I mean, I would test it for you if you sent me a PDF or something. I'd figure out a way to test it out. Take a look at it if you want. I've been playing role-playing games since I was 14, so oof, Ayn Rand. Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, and the thing is too with right-wing philosophy, it's kind of like it's kind of all over the place. I mean, I don't even know. See, that's the thing. Like, this language of left and right, I don't think it's really precise enough, you know? So, all right, we'll play a little bit more. I think he means Schmidt and Evola. Yeah, I don't know. But he's right that people, put it another way, non-left people, not right-wing people, but non-left people tend to have a better grasp on leftism than leftists do on non-left people. And that's partly because leftism is relatively unified. Like, most of the intellectuals that write about it are sort of taking what other people have written before and are expanding on it. Like, Paulo Freire expands on, you know, Marxism and adds in queer theory and feminism, and then also applies it to education. And so, but it comes from the same, you know, these are branches off the same tree. But I don't know that Thomas Sowell and Ayn Rand have a lot in common, you know. Thomas Sowell even refuted himself the concept of left and right in his book, and I agree with him. I think that it's not a useful way to frame things, unless, of course, you want to create, you want to draw lines in the sand, like battle lines, which I think the left wants to do because they always have to oppose something. So anyway, but let him finish here.
to describe right-wing philosophy. They have no fucking clue. They have no fucking idea. All right.
Yeah.
A lot of the right-wing
Why would we read
political-
Hitler? Okay. Wow.
Yeah. That that guy's joking.
But that's a rabbit hole you don't want to go down. But basically, there's
Hitler is a leftist. That's why.
Thinkers and writers.
He was an authoritarian.
And they are actually influencing modern politics because, like, Steve Bannon did read Julius.
Another invader.
Steve
Fucking invader, man.
Mencius Moulton.
Oh no, that's a
These are guys that no one on the left talks about. They just say, oh, they're far right, therefore they're Nazi, therefore they're bad, therefore we don't need to read them. It's like, no, you actually do need to read them. You do need to read, you need to understand these ideas. The right wing is correct on an issue. You should be a right winger on that issue. It's as simple as that, right?
Yep.
And a great example. I think you agree with me on this one, Brianna.
Oh, there's lag. That's why these guys are dying right
the
away.
competency crisis. This is a right-wing idea, all right? And it explains certain problems that we're having in our society right now better than its left-wing equivalent. His left-wing equivalent is
Punch him in the balls.
late-stage capitalism, which is a dog-shit way of conceptualizing what's going on. But the competency crisis is a much better framework to describe the problem. So, when the right is correct, you should be right, and when the left is correct, you should be left. It should be more about truth, and
yeah, no shit. But when is the left right about?
Understanding where arguments come from.
What is the left right about, Dev?
Palestine is a really great example, and right now it is primarily in the United States that is trying to see some nuance. Wick and I have both taken a lot of lumps for looking at the situation.
Israel Palestine. I hope both sides have fun.
Some stuff. So
I hope both teams enjoy themselves. I just don't think the United States should be spending billions of dollars on it. Is that crazy?
As well, like, I don't like team sports when it comes to this. I am not a Democrat because I don't agree with Democratic policies because I'm a Democrat. I agree with most Democratic policies, but sometimes the right is just right. Like, we can look at the TikTok stuff. I think the right is general, and thankfully Biden's on board with this too, but the right is generally correct about TikTok and correct about wanting to divest TikTok from being a Chinese.
I don't know if you guys know, but I heard that the CEO of Rumble
take a chance,
is thinking about buying TikTok. What do you guys think about that?
Funding me today, apparently. So
I mean, at least it won't be under control by the Chinese, if that's the case.
Super chess. I have one question to ask Soyattle, and then I'll move on. That'll be it. Okay, this is it. So, what kind of right-wing philosophy have you read?
Well, okay, so other than James Lindsay that I just mentioned.
James Lindsay is not right wing.
Because
Dudes, come on, dude.
Like,
he is not right wing.
This idea of how to defeat a cultural revolution.
He's a revolutionary.
About trans stuff in schools and like early transition stuff like that. And this is the challenging stuff. So these are the topics that I find myself uncomfortable with, and from the left, I know that as a white dude, I'm supposed to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. So I'm delving into these topics specifically.
So yeah, right-wingers. Oh yeah, Heinlein's good. Yeah, right-wingers would call James Lindsay a leftist, though.
Oh my goodness! You didn't know? I did my entire high school English thesis on Heinlein. I could tell you anything about anything he's ever written.
That's the geek out later. Okay.
That is the reason I didn't get my AP English credit, because Heinlein is actually kind of a garbage author. But as it's like the shonen thing where you like.
Oh my God, this guy literally says Heinlein is a garbage author and then references shonen. You are a loser, my friend. All right, well, let me just like stop this shit, these shenanigans right now. I can't take this anymore. So basically, Tachyon Blue, who is himself a Democrat leftist, gets on a bunch of leftists, some of whom are really far left, and they all talk about how right-wing Gamergate is. And that's for like 2.5 hours. Maybe this gets better. I don't know if any of you guys have like gone through the whole thing. I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of it. I feel like I'm wasting y'all's time. And you know what I'll do is I'll play until I help one more person beat the gargoyles, and then I'll stop because I got to pick up the wife pretty soon. Let me just check at my my wife and see what she says. And let me see if Allison's tried to message me about anything. Okay. HMB press. What's up? Marvel's Black Panther. Oh yeah, have you guys heard about the Black Panther developer woman who discriminates? She openly talks about discriminating against white people, and she used to work for Sweet Baby Inc. You know, that company that isn't really doing anything but dealing with harassment from straight white cisgendered men all the time. You know, like myself, I'm also a straight white cisgendered man. Like all of you, obviously, are cisgendered white men. And my pointing that out is actually, it invalidates their argument, right? Like if I say, well, you're just like a straight white dude, that's it. Victory for them. They win. You know, it's over. You're basically, you're dead. You're dead. Because of their powerful arguments that cannot be beaten. Ha, straight white dude, dunk. How Great Endor says, how about the 10 million saying the unvaxxed should lose their jobs? Jabs for jobs. Yeah. Tales of Gore says, Heinlein is a garbage author. Yeah, anything they say past this point can be disregarded. Well, you know, they're I mean, like, even if this guy did like his whole like English thesis on Heinlein, I haven't yet, but I'm going to. Even if he did his whole thesis on Heinlein, okay, like what are the odds that his professor told him that Heinlein was garbage? And that he was just going along with it and then got an A because he agreed with his professor, who was probably a communist, because almost all the professors are. All of them. Academia is rife with these people. So, yeah. Zarang says, the Roots magazine acknowledged me all those years ago. They didn't realize they let their slave loose. Their loss. Give both of the sides of the conflict pugil sticks and let them duke it out. It's the only way. All right. Thanks, guys, for all your comments and for hanging in there with me. I'm gonna play until I help one more person, and then I'm gonna end the show. So.
Yeah.
Some of his books are quite good.
Do you think Friday is
Yes.
a trans allegory? Yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so here, real quick.
It's also male fantasy, but yeah, it's a trans allegory.
Here, pull up a text file, okay? Because no one on the right will ever consider James. Right wingers that I talk to consider James Lindsay a leftist. Okay.
He is a leftist.
If you want to start,
dude, James Lindsay's a leftist. James Lindsay himself has said it. In fact, he started making a bunch of videos where he's like fretting over right wing backlash. Like he's been doing this for a while. I've seen him on other streams, and I like James Lindsay's work when he's doing like his long podcast videos on all of the writings of these like Marxist professors. Right? I like his work. But he is a leftist. Like that is like he's a center leftist, or maybe he would consider himself to just be a classical liberal, you know. But it doesn't matter. It is what he is. Like, and yeah, a lot of people on the right. I mean, he's always going on about like, you know, he reminds everyone how atheist he is. He's constantly going on about like how bad Christian nationalism is, even though Christian nationalism has like no power. It's not going to grow. You know, they're not running the schools. They're not running the media. They're not making all the music. They're not in our fucking movies. They're not in our video games. They're just not. They're not even in the political sphere. A lot of the supposed conservatives in our government are neocons that basically are part of the uniparty. So it's not, to me, an existential threat, but James Lindsay treats it like it is, because, you know, he is still a leftist, like not like a really far leftist. Obviously, he's you know what he is. Okay, this is the thing that I've seen. I don't know if you guys can understand what I'm getting at, but he's one of these people that, again, I think is doing the right kind of work, and if he like stays on the path where it's all about truth and that's all he wants to reveal, I think he'll find himself where I am. Where it's like, I don't even, like, if you say, well, what are you, man? Are you conservative or liberal? I'll be like, no, I'm about common sense. Like, I'm not saying there's no sides or I don't like labels, but like, I have my beliefs. My beliefs are my beliefs, and it places me somewhere, but it's always in opposition to the left. So the left creates their whole like political worldview is that they are the center, they're in the center, and everyone outside of that center, think of it like an inverted black hole. Everyone outside of that inverted black hole is on the right. But it doesn't matter if they're religious or not. It doesn't matter if they're, Islamic or Jewish or whatever. All of the determining factors are based on this kind of inverted hierarchy, right? And they base it all on that. So why do leftists support Palestine? Why does such a thing as Queers for Palestine exist when Islam is very much against like gay marriage and just being openly gay? Like they're the most intolerant to gays and trans people. But why do the wokies who are trans and gay and non-binary support them? Well, because in their mind, it's not about like left or right. It's about like Israel to them is the colonizer. They are the class in power. They are the regime, and Gaza or even Hamas, they're the underdog, and so we always support the underdog. We always support the oppressed. And so they view every dynamic in terms of power structures and oppressor and oppressed, and so they always support who they perceive to be the oppressed, which is why their ideology is never consistent. And that's why it's not built to be consistent. It's just to serve their desire for a constant state of revolution. And no matter what happens, they'll find a way to justify it. I mean, nothing that they say makes any sense. So like, yeah, James Lindsay is a liberal, and he's concerned about the right-wing backlash, which I don't think is going to happen. And that kind of limits him, because like what he is a lot of these people, I think that Dev is like this too. What they want, they're like protecting the status quo, if that makes sense. A status quo in their minds, like, oh, I want to go back to the 90s. I want to go back to the 90s before all of this shit happened, before all this wokeness was running wild. But what they don't realize is that in the 90s, it was on the road. This is a slow process, right? Over multiple generations, going back to like probably like the French Revolution. And when you realize that it's that old, that it goes all the way back to there, maybe even before that, you realize that just saying, oh, I just want to get back to the 90s is not sufficient, and it's not even really the right way to look at it. I think that it has to be, you have to be welcoming to old ideas as new ideas. Like the stuff that worked in the past and implementing that is essentially all that conservatism is. I mean, it really is. I mean, I'm not saying that like as a defense, I'm just pointing out that, that's like, it's not about putting women in the kitchen and chaining them to their stoves. It's not about that. None of that. They're like, that's not even possible, but it's also not the desired outcome. It really just comes down to people who want to be left alone and people who can't leave people alone. So, but yeah, they want to get back to the 90s. Lamort says, I remember years ago, my parents decided to be nut bars and play missionary in the third world. The church was teaching a bunch of them who were going to Africa liberation theory. My dad pointed out that worked great for the big old Dolph. He used his proper name. The teachers didn't like that. The whole idea between the separation of church and state is at its core a Christian idea. Yeah, it is, because it came from the founding fathers, most of whom were Christians or deists or something close to a Christian worldview. I mean, I would say mostly Protestant, but that doesn't, nonetheless, I think it's coming from a similar place, right? And Aristotle and stuff. It was like, I think it's a good set of ideas. I'm for this, So, but anyway.
Start with actual right-wing philosophy. Here's the book you start with. An Open Letter to Open-Minded Progressives. That's the name of the book.
Who's it by?
Mencius Moldbug.
Okay,
an open letter to
yeah.
open-minded.
Mencius Molba.
It
So
is
I
a
would like
14. Yeah, it's a 14-chapter book that is specifically designed to radicalize your average progressive towards the right wing. And everyone who's very far right that I've ever spoken to said this was the gateway to them reading stuff that's further right wing than Hitler. So reading Evola,
I'm sorry,
reading Oswald Spengler, reading all these fucking
Yeah.
crazies. All right.
Hitler wasn't right wing.
Joining the right should have been like organizing with 350 Sierra Club and the people at the Chop and DSA. I mean, like I survived that, so yeah, I will take Moldbug. Like I did like book studies with DSA, Naomi Klein, all this stuff. So
That sounds cancer.
if that did not put me off of the theory of leftism,
Hey, Dark Souls, yes.
it will be
Time to praise the sun.
activists.
Nothing.
Well,
can be
I'm
any
not
more
gonna be here much
right-wing
longer,
than
but-
dealing with leftists online. That
Oh
if
my
anything's gonna
God.
do it, that's
Oh
gonna
my
be it.
god. Oh my
Luckily,
God.
I don't base my my politics based on the annoyance levels of people
Yeah,
who are
yeah.
for or against the policy. But trust me, having to deal with some of these people, for lack of a better word, it's the most radicalizing thing. But no, I think
Listen, it
it's
goes both
important.
ways. It
don't
goes
know,
both
I
ways
get it.
because
Yeah.
no, just real quick, because I've had so many people. My audience is more right wing than me by far, and they've said, "Dev, you need to read the open letter of Mind Progressive." Like, okay, I'll read it. I read it, and I read it like twice, and I didn't get radicalized by it, and like they all revolted against me for not going down the pipeline. And I was like, I mean, it's interesting. It asks some very interesting questions. He's very clearly an intelligent, educated man, but no, I'm not going to turn into a fucking neo-reactionary because of this book.
Yeah.
Sorry.
just-
What's a neo? What is that? What is that?
You have
Deb, what does that mean? Neo-reactionary? What are you talking about?
topic here, but I wish more people had that view, because unless you understand what someone is trying to say or argue from, the point that they really actually believe, you're never going to be able to reach them, because every time you talk about the subject, they'll be like, well, that's not actually my position. That's not actually what I think. That's not actually what I believe, right? You won't be able to ever engage with them honestly. So I think we need to be able to, because frankly, I think my ideas are just better and they will survive, right? Now, I don't know if it's healthy to only consume right-wing stuff, and there's problems with the algorithm leading you down directions, either left or right, that tend to echo chamber you. But yes, having a healthy, balanced diet of media and consumption and friends, to be clear, is probably the best way forward. Let me get these super chats, because he's paid me like
Sorry about
70
that.
bucks.
Go
No, it's fine. Excuse me.
Being a reactionary is okay if you're reacting to
Trying figure out
pause.
what the problem is.
Yeah, react. What is react? Why do people say it like it's just automatically bad?
Myself.
You're a reactionary, and what am I reacting to?
Can you repeat it?
Sure.
Like,
I'm trying to figure out what the problem is with.
what do you think
man hate?
that is? Like, you're just throwing words. I hate this.
Play.
Leftists are so bad about this rhetoric thing they do. It's like, oh, I just use rhetoric. Yeah, rhetoric isn't
To
truth.
every developer, right? It's pretty much the
Only
truth.
the
Like,
little ones.
well, not exactly. Like here, the thesis of his argument seems to be Sweet Baby as man haters, Sweet Baby's in between developers and the games that you play. It's like, well, even if all that's true, they're not in between every single developer in every single game, right? So like, nobody at Sweet Baby worked on a Nintendo game. I can still go play Tears of the Kingdom. It's a great game, and there's nothing Sweet Baby involved in that game at all. All right, they are not the end boss of the internet. These guys.
Do
Well,
you
there
not
could be
understand
others.
how
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they're exporting. Like,
It's their business.
localization.
Again,
It's
what are we ultimately coming trying to conclude this?
more expensive to do it now, and so they're going to outsource. So what
Oh,
happens?
I know that for sure. Yeah, there's another controversy happening now surrounding a company called Dragon Baby. If you heard about this one,
Oh, boy.
No.
so this is a company that does localization.
Localization,
and for Japanese
localization.
games.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of problem where you have people who are politically partisan
Communists created the term reactionary. Yeah, why are we using it?
translating the game.
So if Trump says something and they react to it,
Translation.
they are the evil ones?
So
Yeah.
it's the same kind of story happening there too.
Just out of curiosity, what's a good example of that, right? Like you say that, but do you have an example in mind?
Why am I so
Sure.
tired? What's with my
So
fat
head-
rolling?
give me a
Why am I
second,
fat
it's fine.
rolling?
I have them in files. Give me a second. Okay.
Oh, it's because of the
Well, as you're looking
crossbow.
at
And just to okay.
Oh no!
Well, I can't carry
time
that.
to read the rest of the.
I got 12,000. I'm gonna go spend my points.
$50 from Artemis Fowl to say the assumption that you people are having is that somehow the things the right wants, Bannon, etc., are bad and their efforts need to be stopped, when the great many problems that everyone has with industry and institutions has been from progressives. Response.
Yes.
That is basically what I said.
I think I said the opposite very explicitly here.
Yeah,
so-
my view was definitely like, if the right is correct, you should be a right winger. Like, I think that my view there answers that. I think, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on a case-by-case topic about what issue you're talking about. But the left definitely does have a lot of problems, and the right definitely does as well. They don't believe in democracy currently, like their current frontrunner. So let's be clear. The right has a lot of major issues.
What are those? Tell me. What are the issues?
Okay.
Tell me.
$20.
What are the issues? Tell me the issues.
You too can also send me money. It doesn't have to be just Artemis Fowl. I do appreciate you, Artemis Fowl. Thank you. I do appreciate it.
What
But
can he
I'm
do?
still fat rolling.
too. I do. Artemis Fowl for $20. The reason that progressive boycotts that involve not buying a game personally fail is because progressives do not actually invest in the communities they claim to represent and belong to. It's why they attack others instead.
Progressives do not represent the communities that they belong
I'm thinking he's
to.
saying a progressive.
Well, I'll say this: the progressives are a minority, and they're not interested in freedom of choice. So they're try to tear everybody down.
I think that a lot of people.
No, they're all They're pro censorship. They're pro restricting people. Trans dignity.
Like
What the hell does that
they
mean?
care about it in aggregate, but I think it's just not. I think most people like J.K. Rowling because they wrote her, their favorite book, and that's kind of just the end of thinking with it.
I think there is definitely a market for these kind of progressive, you can call them even woke games. I don't think that market is as big as perhaps some people think it is, but I think that there definitely are niche products, and that's fine being a niche product. There's a lot of games that are niches. In fact, some of the best games out there don't conform to the traditional standards of oh, this is a first-person shooter, or this is a platformer, or this is X and Y, but they either mix various different ones, or they take it a different direction, like Resident Evil or Metal Gear Solid. Those are definitely like niche games. There's nothing wrong with having that. But the progressive market, in terms of like woke games, like that, there's definitely a market for it. It's just that it's not everybody in society.
Yeah, it's a small market.
$10.
Same goes for like Call of Duty. That's not for everybody either. Like different people have different tastes.
Yeah, Wick, before we do that, can I
please.
make a comment on that?
Yeah, but like most people are normal. That's what I'm saying. Everyone thinks that like see, if you accept this left.
Narrative framing device for political ideology. Y'all do a good job. Woke is chef kiss on that. But
Well, actually, the woke as a term came up with by the left.
right.
Was the BLM people. Wow, she is just
Female character, you can have the evolutionary penis too, if you want to have that, right? That's your bag. It really fits into the cyber.
wow. You're like you got like a one-trick pony.
That is a really like one of my really big criticisms. Something that really pulls me out of immersion in games is nowadays where they just won't say man or woman, right? Like you'll pull it along this slider, like which body type do you want? Body type 1 or body type 2? And I'm like, this is bad UI. Like all of these
Is it?
ideas can be done like well. And
Why do we need to do it?
poorly. So
Why?
there's this I do
Jesus
think
Christ. You know what?
reactionary part of the right whose goal it's not to advocate for the kind of games they want, is to erase what they find very threatening. And I think LGBT representation
What are you talking
is
about?
a really, really good example of that.
Interesting.
I agree.
I want to
Unlock the
talk-
sliders.
There are people who out there like
What-
Dev talked
what?
about this too earlier. There are people out there who are like, oh, the game's got a black person in it, it's woke, right? There are people like that. I think that's like a pretty small portion. I don't.
Who cares?
Most
People are allowed to have whatever feelings they want. Why is this a debate?
It's like, oh, there's
This is
a
stupid.
trans character in the game.
So
I think a lot of them really do just want good writing.
So like in Dark Souls, which is the game I'm playing right now, and all these other like From Software games, when you make a character, there is a slider to determine how masculine or feminine features are. So you can make it more androgynous. Like you can move in between. And Cyberpunk actually has some of that as well, I think. But what's weird is Brianna Wu's kind of giving away the goat here because she's saying, or he's saying, that because the slider exists on a spectrum between masculine and feminine, it is still binary. And that is a problem. So, or even, I think that some games will say body type A or body type B. So they won't even give it a name. And they're trying to dance around this issue, right? But it's still not enough. Like, nothing is enough. And that's kind of what my point is. Why are we trying to please people who can't be pleased? Right? Because it doesn't end. There's no end to it. Maybe what we should do is, maybe from now on, like this is one of the things about Helldivers too that I think is interesting. There are no people. Like your character is basically a number, and that's it. Like you don't have an identity, you don't have a face, and there are two body types. There's like a bigger body type and a smaller body type, and they both look male, but you can just pretend that you're female. You can give your character a female voice, and there you go, right? So, like, and I'm not saying that they were trying to be, like, politically correct, because that's what the first game was like, too. But they're just avoiding the whole thing. And I'm like, well, why don't we, if this is where it's going to go, why don't we just from now on, every video game, the main character is not even human? Like, oh, well, you know, you're a robot. Not even gendered. They don't even speak so that people don't, you know, oh, it's a robot, but he's male presenting because his voice is male. Remember when they were saying this about the Transformers? Like, literally the Transformers? They were like, oh, you know, all the Transformers are male. It's like, no, they're robots. Like, they have male voices, but that's because voice actors are human beings, and human beings are male or female, but they're not, they're so, like, in their perfect world, you can't represent anything. You have to, like, avoid the whole thing, or you have to pause the crap out of it and drive everyone away. Why should we do that? Like, and they talk about this whole thing like it's like there are two sides and both sides have equal numbers. Like, the market size is the same for both sides. That is also really, really untrue. We're talking about a very small percentage of the population. I'm not even talking about the trans people. I'm talking about the wokies. A very small percentage of the population that don't spend money on this stuff, that don't invest in this stuff, and they don't even like it half the time, but they insist that it be made to their liking. All Helldivers are clones. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Trouble Cat says, Dragon Dogma 2 calls it masculine human and feminine human. Yeah. Is that game out yet? Because I was thinking about picking it up. Actual Transformers lore is that female Autobots went extinct. Well, there's RC, I think, and there was like Elita 1. But yeah, doesn't... Either way, like, what is a female Transformer if they're all robots? I don't know. I don't want to know how that works. But I'm saying, you know, Transform rights are robot rights.
And
Anyway.
also,
What is
like,
an example of woke? Can you give me an example?
of what I would consider woke, or like what other people
Yeah,
would.
you're talking like it's an epidemic. What? Give me some examples.
I will tell you what woke is. Critical consciousness. That's all it is. Critical consciousness. It's applied Marxist theory to everything in terms of oppressor and oppressed dynamics. That's it. That's woke. That's all it is. I don't know if Tachyon's going to get this right. He probably isn't. But that's all it is. So when you take everything and you break it down into identities and you employ intersectional feminism to critically analyze, which is really to deconstruct everything, and you break it down into critical Marxist components, which ultimately kills it. That's what woke is. Critical consciousness.
Well, I'm not.
Critical
I'm
praxis.
not saying that it's like an epidemic. Like, that's not my position. Well, like, it could be. I'd have to think about it more. But I guess, like, I don't know. I don't play that many new games. I mostly play like retro games. But like, so I can't really name one off the top of my head.
We may all have to play
That's
retro
not my
games.
opinion.
Maybe it's not that big a problem.
Does Dark Souls 1 count as a retro game? It came out a while
I think
ago.
it's interesting that Cabrutus. Well, let me get. So Cabrutus also basically said in his various interviews he didn't play half the games on his list.
So what?
Okay.
Interesting.
Well,
What does that
actually,
mean?
okay, because I did play this.
Who gives a shit? He can do that.
And, like, it's
He's just compiling the list of Sweet Baby involved games.
where it's like a mix
I like how this guy's like,
JRPG
dunk.
technique
I got him.
mechanics.
Got
And,
him.
like, the main character is like a rebel. Who's, like, talks about how she doesn't like the patriarchy and wants to smash it. And it was like an okay game, except it's like too easy. And I think, in my opinion, it's too easy, except for the skateboarding parts, which I guess is what they put their main focus on. And like it really relies on quick time events to a high degree, which is very annoying. But it was actually kind of cool because it was made by someone who's Indian and Sri Lankan.
What was
I believe.
woke about it?
Well, that she's like there's like
The feminism.
so there's optional clothes and stuff you can have like you can have like a trans character
Feminism.
and like trans jacket and like trans shoes and stuff, like your outfit change that to make that.
What the hell's trans
She
shoes?
also like talks about like
Oh, it's the flag.
and also
This is where problem, because that's just trans people existing, dude.
well,
Like,
I'm not
Oh,
not-
what are you talking? No, it's not.
it is
That's not woke. That's just existing.
but like I'm saying many people would call it woke. Like I don't like use the term woke.
It is woke.
Hold on, no.
Yeah, it
hold
is.
On, hold on.
To describe-
Hold on, because you were asked, Tachyon, like, what is a game you consider? Like, I don't care
Yeah,
about
I don't
anyone
know
else.
because I don't like
You.
use the term like woke on a regular basis to like
Okay,
describe
fair
games.
enough.
Like, oh, that's woke. I would use like progressive, and like it's a very progressive game.
Woke.
So I will say,
Same shit.
like Disco Elysium, incredibly progressive game, very good. Go
Yeah.
play it.
Would it be
Good game.
woke? Is a question.
Woke? No, I don't think it's woke. No.
Okay. And if you have if my chat has
I'm not interested in Disco Elysium.
examples that you want,
I heard Disco Elysium is woke as fuck, and I'm not gonna play it. No thanks. You know, it's because the thing is, this is the thing about woke video games too. They're not just there to enjoy. They're trying to get you to convert to a certain worldview. And I don't think that games generally do that. I think that they're primarily fun. And the stories tend to be like, they may have a moral frame. Like if you play JRPG, you have to save the world. That's usually how these go, right? Well, saving the world doesn't sound like it's a particularly political position. But then when you look at what are the sort of sins of the antagonists, what are the motivations of the people you are opposing, what are your character's beliefs, right? That creates, I mean, it's almost like you need the moral frame to understand why you're doing what you're doing if you care much about the story. So if you break it down to something really basic like Super Mario Brothers, Mario rescues the princess from Bowser. Well, why? Like, why would you need to rescue the princess? Well, because she's kidnapped. What does that mean? Well, her rights are violated because Bowser kidnaps her and takes her away, which is what she doesn't want. And Mario has to essentially rescue her. Kidnapping happens in reality, and people want to be rescued, right? So we have established that the reason why this works is because kidnapping is wrong. Well, why is it wrong? Like, could someone make the case that kidnapping under certain circumstances is not wrong? Well, I suppose so, but then you have to get into moral relativism because ultimately kidnapping is violating somebody's rights, right? You see what I'm saying? So, Mario Brothers is trying to communicate something, which is that kidnapping is wrong. And if you kidnap someone, you should probably, like, kidnapping is bad and you should probably feel bad and you should rescue people when they're kidnapped. Like, it's like feeling heroic, right? Well, heroism itself is a moral argument, and which means it's philosophical, which means it is ultimately, uh-oh, I might die here. Where are you? So you have to, like, you know, have that as a when you realize that woke games, they play around with those sort of universal human truths, and that's when that's where the problem is at. It's not really like whether or not it's in your face or whatever. It's about like what is the moral that they're showing? How do they display it? So with Kill the Justice League, with Suicide Squad, when they kill the characters in that, they do it in such a way that it makes the players feel, especially if they're like big fans of DC Comics and Batman and stuff, they feel like there is something mean-spirited happening, like there is something immoral that they're participating in, and they're being told that it actually is moral. And so like when you have in your story, you know, let's say you have a story about feminism, and the woman in your game, you know, that you're playing as is like killing men in the most like unceremonious ways, and her motivations are questionable. And you're like, wait, why is she doing this? Is it because this guy, like, you know, catcalled her on the street, or he just said something rude, and is this even like normal? Like, is this the way men act? Like, does this make sense? You know? And that's how you know you're dealing with woke shit. If that makes sense, you know? Uh-oh, I better get out of there. Shit. I died! Oh, fuck. You breathed fire on my ass. Kidnapping is not morally wrong. Kids need naps. WEF views video games as a vehicle for ideological indoctrination. Yes. Right. So this is the thing, like, what's going on here is people who want to, like, this game that he was talking about, Disco Elysium. I'm gonna stop here, and I'm not gonna listen to more of this video. I'm gonna wrap this up. So I'll quit here, and we'll just get settled down real quick. So let me move back to the chat screen. I can see you guys, and I'm gonna close this. So the Disco Elysium game has a lot of like progressive politics in the story and in the dialogue, and from what I understand, it is a very well-made game. But therein lies the rub. Something to consider is that, like, what is Disco Elysium? I've never played it, so, you know, whatever. Apparently, there are a lot of dialogue choices. So I wonder then, if there is a lot of choice, you know, can you choose in a game written by progressives about that has a progressive theme? Can you choose to be against it? And how will the game frame your choices? Because it may choose to, for example, if you are, I don't know, like if you, let's say since it's like an RPG, if you're playing a left-wing game or a progressive game and you play a right-wing character, how will the game essentially characterize your choices, right? You see what I'm saying? And I think that, like, the best way to do it is to just try to be honest and tell the truth, you know, tell a truth about reality. But I think too many times it's going to be really, I wouldn't say it's difficult, but if you don't understand, so this goes back to what Dev was saying about how, you know, people on the so-called right have a better understanding of leftist positions than leftists do of right-wing positions. So that means that someone who's on the supposed right, the quote right, if they make a game where you can make choices and your choices have impact on the story, and you can choose along these kind of like philosophical or cultural political lines, that it will shape out in the way that, you know, in the way that like the world responds to you in a way that makes sense, you know, like, because they will have a better understanding. It's like, you know, when Dostoevsky wrote about, he wrote a story about these two characters that had ideologically opposed positions, but he wrote them both as well as he could, and he did the work to really understand them, even though he was like, I think he was like, well, it doesn't matter. He was writing against himself, and he did a really good job because he had to build the best possible argument. This is the reason why people like Dostoevsky are known, because they do they write stories and they understand the position. It's not just like, well, you either acknowledge trans people are humans or you don't. It doesn't work that way, right? And so like this game that Dev is talking about, I think that it doesn't understand that, because I remember seeing a clip and it was talking about fascism. And in it, they completely misrepresented fascism, because they treated it like it's... Fascism is essentially, the saying goes, everything within the state, nothing outside of the state, right? Everything is of the state, within the state, and nothing outside the state. It often marries with it a system, a market system. I wouldn't call it a free market. I certainly wouldn't call it capitalist. I don't like that word. But it's a marriage of business and government. That's all. But the game will say it in terms of, Aryan racial Nazi purity, right? This is what they mean when they say fascist. It's talking about Nazis. But the Nazi party was socialist too. And they hate that because it exposes themselves. It exposes themselves. So the person who wrote that game doesn't understand fascism. And yet they took a position on it. This is why the writing is bad. Because they don't know other people's views. And their content suffers for it. And it'll never change, I don't think, because they appeal to the authority of their professors and of the broader culture, like all of our political pundits, all of our people in government, our media, our entertainment, our news, all of it is like wrapped up in this same paradigm, a paradigm created by the left. The political compass itself. I made a video about it saying that it's bullshit, and I explained why, and people are starting to come around on that. Critical race applied praxis or crap. Mort says it wouldn't have been an issue if all the heroes gotten the same treatment. Zering says Bowser has a castle, a better one than Princess Toadstool has. Bowser is empowering Princess Toadstool's hypergamy. Brian, so misogynistic, yeah. But Robert Johnson says, I played Disco. Conservatives were cast pretty well, in my opinion. My playthrough was fun. Can you be conservative in that game? Mort says they're certainly human, disturbed, and in need of mental help to come to terms with their body, other than risk osteoporosis, early cancer, and a litany of secondary mental health, but still human. Yeah. Tales of Gore says Nordic socialism, the thing they like to praise so much, is just National Socialism without the racism. Yeah. Zerang says, I made comments regarding capitalism earlier. I wanted to know what you thought about it. Let me see if I can find them. Capitalism just means property rights. I don't see it. Maybe it's on the YouTubes. I'll scroll up here and see. It was like my the Roots magazine acknowledged me all those years ago. No, that wasn't it. Is it before that? Oh, this is set to top chat. Why is it set to that? It's been set to live chat. Let me see. I'm just trying to find the comment, and I'm gonna wrap it up. Oh no, it did. I'm sorry, Zeranx. It's not in my history anymore. I'm sorry. Robert Johnson says, well, LacuCD says 3 Telos model is better than the political compass from what I've seen of it. Robert Johnson says, yes, you can, but if memory serves, they're referred to as neoliberals. So that still sounds like it's a bit insufficient, I guess. But anyway. Okay. So I'm going to wrap the show up there. All I'm saying is that, like, there needs to be, I think that the only way that I don't think woke games can work, because the purpose of them is not necessarily to, like, have fun, but to send a message. And it's sort of built into the ideology, right? Like, you buy into this idea that you have to save the world from itself. So you're just gonna, like, cram that into everything. You're gonna have these weird beliefs, like, trans people are just human beings. If you're not cramming them into everything, that means you don't see them as human. And let me bring up Cyberpunk 2077 again for some reason. But or you're just gonna say, well, these people are all scum and Heinlein's a shitty writer. Like I don't know if you noticed, but like the left, they like show their ass all the time. Like all the time. When you put them on the spot, you just don't have to put them on the spot. You don't have to trap them. You just ask them. You know? Like Cabrutus was just making a list, and he's like, well, he didn't play any of the games on his list, so what does that mean? Nothing. It doesn't mean anything. He never said, all he said was, here's a bunch of shit that they made. People, you do whatever you want with it. If it hurts the sales, it hurts the sales. So fucking what? You know? Sorry, but, you know, the thing that makes me the most upset about this, not just the destruction of art and the vandalism that these people are engaging in, but it's like this entitlement to other people's money. Like this idea, you have to spend money on this thing that I like because it agrees with my politics. Also, I'm not being political. I'm just exercising common sense. There's another thing that the wokies do, is that they think, well, this isn't politics. This is just like treating people like decent human beings. But of course, they believe that their politics is the politics of being a decent human being. And that anyone who doesn't share those politics is clearly not a decent human being. That's an unworkable paradigm. But it is one that the left created. So, anyway. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up there. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. I may put out another video a little bit later. It depends on the time. But thanks so much for coming on the show. If you like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about what we discussed on the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you so much for coming on today's episode of, well, this is Honey Badger Arcade and my reaction to the discussion between Tachyon Blue and a bunch of other, like, commies and soft commies. Talk to you later.
Are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.